to Britannia, sing in praise of Britain's boys. Jolly Jack the sailor with his breezy style, Mr. Tommy Atkins of the rank and file, there to lands we can depend on when danger comes on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel, the Third Opinion Media channel. You can watch us on YouTube. Me and Ethan, every once in a while, we do a radio show once a week. We have a podcast. We do fun stuff. Sometimes we drink drinks too close to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. But for Veterans Day 2018, I don't think you knew this before I mentioned it to you, or maybe you did.
I knew it was Veterans Day, and you said something about it being for Veterans Day.
Yes. So when this comes out, November 11th, 2018, will be the 100 year anniversary of World War I ending. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal, but no one's really talking about it, I feel like. So
I think it gets overshadowed by the did I just say
overshadowed?
Overshadowed
by World War II, I'd say.
World War
Because it was more
II.
recent and people have family and friends that were around then.
And also, for some people, it was worse.
It was.
than
It was worse. World War II was worse than World War I in every way. But
yeah, and they thought they couldn't. It couldn't get any
yeah,
worse.
they're like this. They said the war to end all wars a couple years into it. So some quick background. I've been following a few Twitter accounts and a few YouTube pages. And all right, well, there's a ghost in my house.
Oh no!
So I've been following some accounts and some YouTubers and people that have been like tweeting about it and talking about it and helping learn everyone history.
Yeah, they learnt us.
They learned us real good. You can tell where we're from. They have been like teaching history since the beginning of the war, which would have been 2014. I believe September 2014 is when it would have been. But I didn't start catching on until around early 2016, January, February, around then. And then they announced at E3 2016 Battlefield 1, which was the World War I Battlefield game.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, I'm going to like learn way more than I need to now because it's going to be an awesome video game. And the game was a lot of fun, but it's like a video game.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be historically accurate per se.
But in the campaign of that game, which the campaign is criminally like brief, in my opinion. That's
the biggest problem with some games.
With a
nowadays.
lot of big first-person shooters, yeah, I'd say.
I wouldn't even say first-person shooters, just some games in general nowadays.
Yeah. It didn't really touch on it enough, I'd say, and that came out at the end of October, I think, 2016.
Yeah.
So I, kept learning more and kept reading more and kept learning more. And so I decided around January this year, actually, 2018, that we would try something nice. I wanted to do like a look back on the war, and I wanted to do like a video on my channel, my personal channel, like called America's Amnesty, a look back on World War I, because no one's really talking about it any more than they have to. It seems like, even though this happened 100 years ago.
Yeah. I don't get why it gets overshadowed so much.
There is a handful of reasons.
I do understand like that the second World War was like bigger and badder.
Yeah,
everything a sequel
and like
should
that
be.
one, that one, everything a sequel should be nice. That one, like Terminator, like the first one was great, but the second one, but we can literally go around town in our town and ask people about older folk about World War II, and a lot of them have some story pertaining to World War II.
Yeah.
Whereas people around here, at least, only have like relatives that they used to know, or people that they would talk to, like, oh yeah, I remember my grandfather talking about World War I and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the manager at the radio station, Mary, she said, I don't know if she said her father or her grandfather, a fatherly figure that she was related to, like uncle or grandfather or whatever, was talking about how he was a country boy, and then whenever he was sent to France to fight the Germans in World War I, about like how he spent like his first, I believe she said like his first night like trying to break in his horse and get get that done ahead of time when everyone else was like getting used to everybody and talking to everybody.
Yeah.
And then she said the next morning he was the only person that could actually ride his horse because no one else bothered to break them in yet. So he's like a day ahead of everybody. You know, it's just a fun anecdote, a fun story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think
I don't have any like relatives that I know personally that have dealt with World War One. I have some relatives that have dealt with World War Two that I know, but even then, not directly. It was more the I guess just like the outcome of the war more than it was the war. Like my granddad
loosely relative to it. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandpa was stationed in Germany in the 40s. Fun fact. No, it wasn't the 40s. Sorry. Fun fact, he was sent to Germany the year after Elvis Presley was sent to Germany. It wasn't the 40s.
Really? That was
like
in the 50s
in the
then.
late 50s, early 60s, somewhere around there. I don't even
like 58,
remember.
57, 58.
I'm
not
sure.
My music history is separate
I'm an
from
Elvis fan, but it's been a while since I.
It's been a hot minute. It's not Christmas yet, so we don't have to keep track of Elvis for a little bit. Some of the best Christmas music.
I don't know why I thought it was the 40s because I knew it was around when Elvis.
Well,
Presley
it seems
went.
like in between the period. And we'll get back to the Great War and around that period here in a second.
Yeah.
It seems like as soon as World War II ended, 1945. Nothing like really crazy happened in America until like Vietnam, 1960, like for 20 years.
Yeah.
Nothing like really crazy happened, even though we were involved in like 3 conflicts in between that time. Korea being the most notable one. I'm sure there's a couple more in between then that I'm just not thinking of. I know there is.
Yeah.
But like nothing was like crazy
They were just
big.
smaller.
Yeah, just smaller conflicts. Korea, which is still going on today. The war technically in Korea never ended. They're just like we just left, and to the North Koreans we're still the enemy. Don't think I blame them. So yeah, like you never really hear stories about. You don't hear them from people anymore. World War I stories or Great War stories. You don't really hear them. I think it's because it was 100 years ago. Like it was so long ago, and it seems like a thing of the past. Whereas stuff in World War I is being brought up again today. You have all these alt-right people. You have these neo-Nazis and people who are like, Hitler was right. You have that like coming back up again today in politics. You don't have people like talking about how the Kaiser was in fact the best monarch for the German Empire. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see that's one of the big reasons why the distance.
Calling me right now.
I bet I know who it is.
Yeah, it's probably Papa.
Oh, you're probably my dad.
Yeah.
I was thinking like Kyle.
Actually, no. It might be. No, it's Dad.
All right.
I'm doing something with that, so it doesn't bother us. Sorry.
My ass is buzzing. So I think that's like probably the big reason why it's not anyone's recent memory or anything. I'd say the biggest thing that was the most popular for World War I, in 2016 was the Battlefield game that millions of people bought and played, and I really enjoyed. And then 2017, really not much happened. The thing with France and the United States, President Macron and then Donald Trump saying they're going to do something for Veterans Day this year, like they're setting up flowers, like a memorial or something like that in France. And I don't really, I need to look into that one because it would be interesting to read about or watch or whatever. And then this year, obviously, Veterans Day. And then the new Peter Jackson film that's coming out. Like he's touching up and HD and coloring some World War I footage that was shot like on field and all of that.
That's
which
cool.
So a fun fact that I learned from my favorite Great War channel is The Great War, and they have been doing since September 2014 a weekly what happened. So they've been doing it for 4 years straight, weekly, with like no breaks, no pause in between. And like throughout the week they do who did what, who was this person, what is this thing, this technology came out. I was watching the channel. I remember the week where tanks were finally developed and put onto the battlefield, and it was like a big deal. There's one story that I'll probably find and insert here or later on in the episode, who knows, about how like the English were the first to implement tanks, like effectively at least, and how the Germans thought it was like some kind of monster beast coming from the smoke. It's like someone's describing like a horror movie. It's terrifying the way they describe it.
If you haven't seen anything like
If you
it
haven't
before,
seen it before, yeah.
it would be something like that. I'm trying to think of what something like that would. It's hard for me to
It'd be
imagine.
like, it's hard to imagine that doesn't
something-
exist.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. Exactly.
One thing that was very a comparison would have been like if you saw a fully like 3-dimensional like dragon style monster, and you didn't know there was like some kind of holographic thing that could appear and nothing. That was one of them. But it's like it's hard to draw a comparison to something that like just doesn't exist yet. And I think that's like a very important thing that people don't realize. A lot of things were developed solely for that war, which brings me to what we did tonight. For the first movie that we watched Zulu, 1964 film, and I have it ready this time. Cool. It is. Let me get to the top of the page real fast.
He has it ready.
I have it ready. It was directed by Kai Enfield. Kai Enfield. I don't know how you said that one. It was narrated by Richard Burton. Pretty nifty, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see. Screenplay by John Preble and Kai Enfield. Produced by Stanley Baker. Story by John Preble. Let's see. Music by John Barry. John Barry did music for James Bond. Dr. No, he did Dancing with Wolves and Out of Africa. He's done like a lot of like movie and cinema music. Cinematography was by Stephen Dade, which I have to say, bravo to him. Beautiful cinematography. Let's see if he's done any other films anybody would recognize. Zulu. He died in 1975, so he must not have done that much.
Yeah, that was
beautifully shot.
10 years after this movie, so
yeah. Let's see. It came out in the United Kingdom on January 2nd, 1964, which would have been 75 years after the original battle. So let's get to the actual battle, which is the movie is based on the Battle of Rorke's Drift, which is also known as the Defense of Rorke's Drift. I'm using Wikipedia for this. It's just the most comprehensive here. Yeah. It was a battle in the Anglo-Zulu War. It is the defense of the mission station of Rorke's Drift under the command of Lieutenants John Chard and the Royal Engineers, and Gonville Bromhead immediately followed the British Army's defeat at the Battle of Isandlwana on January 22nd, and continuing to the next day, which the movie portrayed great. So that's the battle. The movie is the movie opens up with the aftermath of the Battle of Isandlwana, and so it was that morning in the movie. It was the next day in real life. So it goes from the movie, that opening, to a village, and in the village, I don't know what to call it. There is, let me find the Wikipedia article again. It is a marriage ceremony. Oh. I don't know how he would have gathered that. It must be like a screenplay thing, because you don't overtly see like one bride and one groom or whatever. Yeah. But like there's a missionary, Otto Witt, who's played by Jack Hawkins, and his daughter, who's played by Ulla Jacobson, and the Zulu King. I said I wasn't sure if that was a king or not. The Zulu King. Oh man, I'm going to get all these African names wrong. No. Sitiwayo, who was actually played by Chief Buthelezi.
I feel sorry.
I feel bad also. I just cannot pronounce any of his names. I'm exhausted. I've been up all day. Usually I can. All the African names in Black Panther I can get down, no problem. But it's a different language type. Yeah. That's a
lot of things people don't realize though.
There's so many different languages.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Is my face bright red? I'm so embarrassed.
You just have rosy cheeks.
I have flushed skin constantly. Yeah. Let's see. So, receiving news of Isandlwana from the native contingent commander, there's a Dutch name, Oddendorf, who warns that an army of 4,000 Zulu warriors is advancing to the British position. Lieutenant John Chard, played by Stanley Baker of the Royal Engineers, assumes command of the small British detachment. Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead, played by Michael Caine, his first major role.
Michael Caine.
An infantry officer is rather put out to find himself subordinate to an engineer due to the latter's slightly earlier commission. I'm not going to read the entire thing.
No, go ahead.
So I'm going to continue. I'm going to finish this paragraph. Realizing that they cannot outrun the Zulu army with wounded soldiers, Chard decides to make a stand at the station using wagons, sacks of sacks of meal, and crates of ship's biscuits to form a defensive perimeter to counter the Zulu nation's deadly effective bull tactical enveloping formation, which I think is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Witt becomes drunk and demoralizes the men, who's the missionary, who was portrayed in this movie, excuse my language, as a dumb fucker. Which is, we're going to get to the historical accuracies and inaccuracies like here in a second. Chard orders Witt to be locked up in a supply room. Great move. They realize midway in the film, after he's antagonizing everybody, that like maybe we should get rid of this guy.
I wonder if they made
he's a asshole.
I mean, they did show that the Zulu army didn't go after them.
Yeah, they portray them as like leaving.
Yeah, but at the same time, I just wonder, like...
I mean, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I bet they did. Okay, so here we go. For the historical accuracies and inaccuracies. The basic premises of the film are true and largely accurate, like I said at the beginning of us watching it. The heavily outnumbered British successfully defended Rorke's Drift, more or less, as portrayed in the film. Writer Kai Enfield even consulted a Zulu tribal historian for information from Zulu oral tradition about the attack. There are, however, a number of historical inaccuracies in the film, most of which are of minor importance and some of which were added for dramatic effect.
Okay.
Which I feel like they could have, and this seems to be a problem with movies from this time period, and now at least.
Yeah.
A problem with movies overall. I shouldn't say a specific period. But it seems like they changed some story elements around to make it more dramatic or resonate more with audiences. Which
they do that.
They do that all the time.
A lot of movies.
And I feel like, one movie that they don't do it in is Saving Private Ryan. And I think that's Well, I mean, obviously it has like some crazy some inaccuracies and accuracies, but like the movie ends with the main character dying. And all the main characters.
Spoiler.
Excuse me for a 20-year-old. The film's older than I am. Let me just get really aggressive real fast. In this one, all the main characters are still alive. And I'm going to double check and see if all the ones in real life are still alive. One thing that they left out.
I think they're dead now.
I mean, they're dead now, Trevor. The film, an important asterisk here in the Wikipedia article, the film also leaves out the, quote, subsequent slaughter of hundreds of Zulus, wounded, clubbed, shot, and bayoneted to death, some hanged and others buried alive. End quote. So, hey, you got to make sure the audience feels great. So, the regiment, the 24th Regiment of Foot, is described as a Welsh regiment. However, although it is based in Brecon in South Wales, its designation was the 24th Regiment of Foot, the 2nd Warwickshire unit. It did not become the South Wales borders until 1881, which would have been a few years after. Of the soldiers present, 49 were English, 32 Welsh, 16 Irish, and 22 others of indeterminate nationality. The end song, Men of Harlech, features prominently as the regimental song. It did not become so until later. At the time of the battle, the regimental song was the Warwickshire Lad, because the regiment was of South Wales. So there was no battlefield singing contest between the British and the Zulus. Never happened. So there was
perfect.
No no sing off, no Thanos level dance off. That should have happened. So I'll be quick with.
I'm pretty sure the Zulu would have won a dance off.
They probably would have. There are several inconsistencies with the historical record concerning the Swedish missionaries. Didn't gather that he was Swedish at all. The Witts.
Had no idea.
In the film, Witt is depicted as a middle-aged widower, a pacifist, and a drunkard who has an adult daughter called, I'm not making this up, Margarita. Margarita, yeah. In reality, Otto Witt was age 30 and had a wife, Eileen, and 2 infant children. Witt's family were 19 miles, 30 kilometers away at the time of the battle. Okay. So, on the morning of the battle, Otto Witt with the chaplain, George Smith, and Sergeant Major Surgeon Major James Henry Reynolds had ascended Cheyenne, the large hill near the station, and noticed the approach of the Zulu force across the Buffalo River. So, he wasn't a pacifist either. He had cooperated closely with the army and negotiated a lease to put Rorke's Drift at Lord Chelmsford's disposal. Chelmsford, I don't know.
Okay.
He made it clear that he did not oppose British intervention against Sitchawayo. Kitchawayo, I don't know. I'm sorry. He had stayed at Rorke's Drift because he wished to take part in the defense of my own house at the same time in the defense of an important place for the whole colony. My thoughts went to my wife and to my children who were a short distance from there and did not know anything of what was going on. So he left shortly before the battle.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The men of the regiment.
He was probably very much not drunk either.
Probably not. Like he was in the movie. Displaying him as a pacifist drunkard. How does that work, you wonder?
I don't know.
Most drunkards I know are not pacifists. Most pacifists I know don't drink. So I don't really...
I mean...
Well, they're not drunkards.
Every person just has, like, their own way of dealing with things, I guess.
Yeah. So...
And if you're surrounded by
bunch
thousands of Zulu, you might just be like, you know
what? You know what? Where should we go on battery? Lieutenants John Chard and Gonville Bromhead. Chard had received his commission in April 1868, making Bromhead the junior officer and second in command at the Drift, even though he was an infantryman and Chard was an engineer. In the film, it is stated that Bromhead received his commission only 3 months after Chard, when, in fact, it was a full 3 years ahead of Chard. Or full 3 years after Chard, excuse me.
Okay.
So, there would have been no contention. Sergeant Reynolds. During the Battle of Rorke's Drift, Reynolds went around the barricades distributing ammunition and tending to the wounded from there, something that is not shown in the film. During the closing voiceover, he is also incorrectly referred to as Surgeon Major, Army Hospital Corps, when he was of the Army Medical Department and was not promoted to the rank of Surgeon Major until after the action at Rorke's Drift. The pacifism apparent in the Maggie's portrayal is also somewhat anachronistic and not based on the historical Surgeon Reynolds. Private Henry Hook V.C. is depicted as a rogue with a penchant for alcohol. In fact, he was a model soldier who later became a sergeant. He was also a T2 taller. What is that one?
So,
a common practice of complete personal abstinence from alcohol. Oh, he was someone who, in fact, did not drink at all. Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
That feels very inaccurate.
Yeah, you have to ask why, you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, they could have given any character that attribute. He didn't even have to be like...
Yeah, they're taking historical liberties, which is fine to an extent.
The thing is that most of the people that they named, like, that they named got,
I feel like they could have just made up characters somewhat. Or,
Yeah,
made up characters, but, like, just play the characters accurately, I feel like.
Well, even then, if they wanted they didn't have to make it him.
Well, even then, so the next one. Okay, let me finish Private Henry Hook. The film had him malingering and under arrest in the hospital when he had actually been specifically assigned there to guard the building. The filmmakers felt that the story needed an anti-hero who redeems himself in the course of the events, but the film's presentation of Hook caused his daughter to walk out of the film premiere in disgust. Conversely, Corporal William Allen is depicted as a model soldier. In real life, he had recently been demoted prior to the battle from sergeant for drunkenness. So they swapped the character types.
Why didn't... It would have been so...
It would have been so much easier.
It would have been interesting as well to see that play out on screen, because think about it.
You have a model soldier and then you have a drunkard that he's...
Well,
yeah.
I was also just referring to Hook himself.
Yeah.
How interesting would an entire subplot of him, like, these are my men to protect.
That would have been, I feel like, so much better than him being a roguish anti-hero who's a drunk.
See...
And it's not at all.
Gives him almost that Captain America feel as well.
It makes
These
me
are
wonder.
My people.
It makes me wonder if anybody got in any trouble, because that now at least I feel like it could be a defamation thing somewhat. Because if someone portrayed me on screen as a sex crazy drunken maniac, on a
why
movie,
would they portray you as me? Do I look like that kind of person?
A sex crazed drunken maniac? Look at this face. Look at that face. We were at 25 minutes. That's longer than one of you. Anyway, let's wrap this bad boy up. Color Sergeant Frank Bourne, who actually died in 1945, is depicted as a big, hardened, middle-aged veteran. In fact, he was of modest stature and age 24, the youngest color sergeant in the British Army. He was called the Kid by his men. How young he was. Color Sergeant Bourne would not have worn medals on his duty uniform. Moreover, Green's costume has the chevrons on the wrong arm. After the battle, Bourne was offered a commission but turned it down because he lacked the money necessary to serve as a commissioned officer. He did accept a commission in 1890. He was the last British survivor of the battle and died as a full colonel. Let's see. Yeah, he died in 1945. He lived for a while then. The role of Padre George Smith, Ammunition Smith, is completely ignored in the film, which I think would have been a great thing to have.
So wait, who did they ignore? Like
Padre George Smith. He was an army chaplain and defender in Rorke's Drift for the Zulu War, an action which saw the winning of 11 Victoria Crosses, and I think he may have been one of them. Let's see. This guy has like a full Wikipedia article.
Congratulations.
He's apparently one of the prominent people painted in the Defense of Rorke's Drift in 1880, in the painting. Alrighty, about done here. Let's see. Corporal Christian Ferdinand Scheiss was only 22, significantly younger than the actor who portrayed him. The detachment of cavalry from Durnford's Horse, who ride up to the mission station, were members of the native contingent, mainly composed of black riders, rather than the local white farmers depicted in the movie, who had survived the Battle of Isandlwana and had ridden to Rorke's Drift to warn and aid the garrison there. They were present during the opening action with the Zulus, but then rode off as they had very little ammunition for their cavalry carbines. Captain Stevenson is depicted at their head, when in reality he was leading the NNC infantry, who had already deserted. The uniforms of the native contingent are inaccurate. NNC troops were not issued with European-style clothes. Only the European officers wore makeshift uniforms. The rank and file wore traditional tribal garb topped by a red rag worn around the forehead, as correctly depicted in the prequel, Zulu Dawn.
There was a prequel?
Yeah, that might be interesting to look into.
Yeah.
Eventually. Not if it's so damn long again. Let's see. Court martial, blah, 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 blah. This is true. Anyway, the Zulus. The attack on the mission station was not ordered by King Setshwayo. Setshwayo. We'll say that for now.
Yeah.
As the audience is led to believe in the film. Setshwayo had specifically told his warriors not to invade Natal, the British colony. Natal. The attack was led by Prince... Oh, Lord. Kampande. I'll just say his last name. Prince Kampande. The king's half-brother who pursued fleeing survivors at Isandlwana across the river and then moved on to attack Rorke's Drift. Although almost 20,000 rounds of ammunition were fired by the defenders, just under 400 Zulus were killed at Rorke's Drift. A similar number were left behind when the Zulus retreated, being too badly wounded to move. Comments from veterans many years after the event suggest the British killed many of these wounded men in the battle's aftermath, raising the total number of Zulu deaths to over 700. So, the ending of the film is somewhat fictitious. There was no Zulu attack at dawn on 23rd January 1879, which in the film led to the singing battle. There was only sparse fighting with a few remaining Zulu. However, at roughly 7 a.m., an empire suddenly appeared in the British man positions. No attack materialized. I'm starting to write more. As the Zulus had been on the move for 6 days prior to the battle, and their ranks were hundreds of wounded, and they were several days' march from any supplies. So, this is the thing that I really want to add and drive the point home of historical inaccuracy. The Zulus did not sing a song saluting fellow warriors, and they did not depart peacefully. They were departed at the approach of the British relief column. Or they depart at the
British
approach.
relief?
In real life, yeah, at the approach of the relief column. The inaccuracy has been praised for showing the Zulus in a positive light for treating them and the British as equals, but it has been criticized as undermining any anti-imperial message of the film by unhistorically showing the Zulu warriors, legitimizing the presence of the British soldiers by saluting them as fellow braves, and for portraying the battle as a fair fight despite the superior British firearms. So they had rifles in the movie, which they had, but like which you brought up, they probably shouldn't know how to work them. And I brought up that, like, well, it's like opening a Nerf gun. You open up a part of the Nerf gun, you put a dart in, you close the latch. It would be a latch in this case, the hangar door. You close that and you pull the trigger and it shoots. But like, there was another thing. I believe it's the Rhodesian War, which took place in the 70s, the mid to late 70s. I don't remember exactly when. And it's like, on an AK-47, there's a dial that changes the range. It actually changes the barrel physically to show range or to make the bullet shoot a different way for range. And the Rhodesians, or the attacking Zimbabweans, cranked the dial all the way up, and they said, "Oh, we thought it made the gun shoot harder." So I feel like if this took place, less than 100 years, around 100 years before this, and they only had big sticks that shot one bullet, and then 100 years later, Zimbabwe warriors didn't know, warriors didn't know how AKs worked. I feel like that's not too far. They didn't know how they worked. So to close 30 minutes in, I feel like the movie is good. And in 2017, I think is what it said, it was ranked as 93rd for like best all-time British films.
It's a really good movie despite the inaccuracies.
Despite the inaccuracies, the movie is really good, and it is a great story.
That's what we should judge here for the most part.
Yeah. I feel like the movie could have been heightened, and it could have stood the test of time better and have been seen in a better light if it was probably not made by the British. And if they had not, for lack of a better term, fucked around with history, and fucked around with the actual, like, these people's families went to see this movie, and I feel like if someone made a movie about like my mom and it's like not 100% accurate, I would be like, okay, well, that's a bit weird.
That's
at the very least.
That's the thing about a lot of historical movies about people
about real historical events. Yeah,
about real historical events that people have connections to in some way. Like, people still to this day sue over like historical inaccuracies based on like their relatives that aren't even alive anymore.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it is a really good movie, though. It's one of my favorite war movies.
It's really good, but I don't know.
It's not one of the situations where the bad outweighs the good.
Yeah.
Which, the Lord, it's really raining out there.
I just can't get over the fact that they left out some kind of important things.
They left out some key things, and then they switched around the characters,
especially
which I don't appreciate.
The very
and then the
end,
very end did not end that way. It ended with the British like, all right, fuck you, Zulus, and then like killing wounded and clubbing them and burying people
alive. Yeah,
that's overlooked a lot in English history.
I feel like
war atrocities. I mean, I'm not gonna highlight the horrible things. I didn't do anything like that bad. Let me just get that out of the way. But like, I was an asshole whenever I was like 12, 13, 14.
The atrocities
I've committed. They'll never see the light of day again, Trevor. I mean, I wouldn't want my entire movie to be, if it had parts, I want it to be the good parts. I wouldn't want it to be me being an asshole to cute girls that I know whenever I was 12 and 13. Let's just skip on past that. So I can see that being the case.
I can see that, but at the same time, it's like when do you remember the video I showed you whenever we were filming?
Excuse me, my banana bread's done.
Now who's laughing?
Who's laughing now?
Not me. Well, anyways, do you remember the what was I gonna say?
Oh no.
I forgot what I was talking
Blame
about.
it on Kyle. He's the one who texted us.
Banana bread.
Banana bread. Damn you, banana bread. So,
anyways,
you have anything else you'd like to add? I've been doing the most of the talking for this one.
Yeah, no. It's a lot of historical stuff that you've been rambling on about.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
I have been. Freely admit.
No, I remember what I was going to say.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm very glad you did.
So, do you remember the video I showed you where it was a Hong Kong Disneyland ad?
Yes. It's like the Chinese love rice. Like just shit like that.
It was. It was casual racism.
Casual racism. Yeah.
And then no, it wasn't Hong Kong Disneyland.
It was Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah, it was Tokyo.
Where there was a Disney being implemented in the 80s.
Yeah, and they said something about like
Just so
and we
casual.
have these animatronics that go through the history of Japan, not World War II. They are exclusively programmed to not say anything about World War II, and I lost it at that point. But that's what that kind of reminds me of. Like,
Yes. Now that you're drawing the connections and parallels, I can see that. Like they will 100% show the Zulu in a good light, but I feel like there's nothing to show the Zulu in a bad light for. You're the people that invaded their country. You're the ones that bury their people alive and kill their people even though they're
one
wounded.
of the diamonds.
Yeah, and that's why they invaded. Like for I mean, I'll if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like
Yeah.
loosely, what I saw in the article, it wasn't like a land colonization expansion. It was like a diamond expansion, which is still prevalent today. Diamonds are still essentially overpriced, and blood diamonds are still very, very prominent. So, yeah. Anything else you'd like to add? Because we are at 35 minutes.
Cool. 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10?
Yeah.
The movie, I would say, is a 8 out of 10. Solid film overall. For historical war movies, I'd say it's probably still an 8 out of 10.
Historical war movies. I'd say 7.
It's not bad.
That's me though, personally.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not bad. Alrighty. Let's go on to our next movie.
Which is?
All right, welcome back. We watched the second film. We watched 1980 Breaker Morant.
Yeah.
One of my personal all-time favorite movies. Zulu was one of my favorite war movies.
Yeah.
But I think Breaker Morant's probably my favorite war movie.
Okay.
And it's also one of my favorite films.
I can understand that. It's got some heavy subject issues.
Yeah, there's a lot of heavy material in it. So I had the Wikipedia page open on this one, already ready to go. The film was made in 1980, released in 1980. It was directed by Bruce Beresford, produced by Matt Carroll, screenplay by Bruce Beresford, Jonathan Hardy, and David Stevens. It is based on Breaker Morant, a play in 2 acts by Kenneth Gross. The cinematography is by Donald McAlpine. Has Donald McAlpine? I don't think Donald McAlpine has done like anything else anyone knows. He did the cinematography for Predator. All right, so people have heard of Predator.
Yeah.
Parenthood, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Really?
The Man Without a Face. Yeah.
Wait, the
Clear
same
and Present
guy
Danger.
who did the cinematography
For Breaker Morant, yeah.
for this
Wow, yeah.
also did Predator and Mrs. Doubtfire.
X-Men Origins Wolverine, Mental Ender's Game, Dressmaker.
You know, I actually thought of X-Men Origins Wolverine during
For all the
shooting at the very end.
So the film concerns the 1902 court-martial of lieutenants, or if you're English, lieutenants, Harry Morant, Peter Hancock, and George Whitten, one of the first war crime prosecutions in British military history. Australians serving in the British Army during the Second Anglo-Boer War, which is just known as the Boer War. Lieutenants Morant, Hancock, and Whitten stood accused of murdering captured enemy combatants and an unarmed civilian in the northern Transvaal. The film is notable for its exploration of the Nuremberg defense, the politics of the death penalty, and the human cost of total war, which total war is... I can just click on the Wikipedia article. Total war is warfare that includes any and all civilian associated resources and infrastructure as legitimate military targets, mobilizes all the resources of society to fight war, and gives priority to warfare over non-combatant needs. The American English Dictionary defines total war as war that is unrestricted in terms of the weapons used, the territory or combatants involved, or the objectives pursued, especially one in which the laws of war are disregarded.
So this is like bare knuckles, like we're just about to...
We're going to kill everything we can, yeah. The image used for the Total War page is a nuclear explosion. So I feel like that's a perfect picture description. As the trial unfolds, the events in question are shown in flashback. So for the film.
Yeah.
In 1980, the film won 10 Australian Film Institute awards, including Best Film, Best Direction, Leading Actor, Supporting Actor, Screenplay, Art Direction, Cinematography, and Editing. It was also nominated for the 1980 Academy Award for the Best Writing, a screenplay based on material from another medium. Yeah, it's heavy, dude.
Yeah.
It's heavy, Doc. Here's a real quick synopsis. In Pretoria, South Africa, in 1902, Major Charles Bolton, played by Rod Mulliner. See, these are Australians and English names. I can pronounce these just fine. Is summoned to a meeting with Lord Kitchener, played by Alan Castle. He is told that 3 officers of the Bushveld Carbineers, Lieutenants Harry Morant, played by Edward Woodward, Peter Hancock, played by Brian Brown, and George Whitten, played by Louis Fitzgerald, have been arrested and charged with murdering captured Boers and a German missionary.
Objection.
Hold on, please. Explaining, I know what image you're referencing. Explaining ominously that the Kaiser has protested diplomatically about the latter killing, Kitchener asks Major Bolton to appear for the prosecution. To the Major's visible dismay, he is told that witnesses which would help the defense have been sent to India and that the defense counsel is expected to give him no trouble. It continues for a while. The movie is not as long as Zulu. I think it's an hour shorter than Zulu, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe like 45 minutes or so. It was an hour 47, I believe. Well, yeah, an hour. It was 107 minutes, so an hour 47. Do you have any thoughts on the film that you'd like to add before I get into the historical inaccuracies?
Yeah.
Of which there are a few, by the way.
I had no idea what this movie was about, honestly, whenever you told me the name, like
yeah.
Like
what
I
did
would
you
be
think
excited,
of
and I'm like, I don't know what. I have no idea what this is. I didn't know what to expect. I assumed it would be a war film, obviously.
What if I just like play like My Little Pony or something like? Well, this is a war movie. Look at what's happening on screen. And
Look
it's like
at
they're
it.
sharing apples and stuff. But
Well,
no, go ahead.
it was a pretty good movie. It brought up a lot of like, just, I guess, I don't know, just subjects of war in general. Like, are these men in the right for listening to their country, or is the country being kind of dickish for throwing them under the bus? And they are gonna. Like, it's just, man.
Yeah, there's some really heavy subject matter. Of course, the two main ones being, are these men, is them, so they're being charged for the murder of the missionary and the Boer prisoners, even though Lord Kitchener himself, and they say in the film that he's held in the highest regard in military history currently, like an active military, whatever. It's very late. I'm having a hard time thinking. Would he ever give such a command? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
He would give such a command. And of course, this one is based off of actual events. Zulu is also, but it's like the film isn't 1-to-1, whereas this one is like relatively 1-to-1. There are some drama aspects of it that are exaggerated, but yeah, the film was very heavy, and it's one of my favorites because it touches on so many different. What's the word for it? Different aspects, I guess.
Yeah.
Aspects of war. So, the historical inaccuracies of the movie pertaining to real life. In conversation with Major Bolton, Lord Kitchener states that the Kaiser Wilhelm II has firmly protested about the murder of Reverend Hess, whom he describes as a German citizen. He elaborates that the German people support the Boer cause, that their elected representatives covet the gold and diamond mines of the Boer republics, and that the British government fears German entry into the ongoing conflict. This, Kitchener explains, is why Lieutenants Morant, Hancock, and Whitten must be convicted at all costs. According to South African historian Charles Leach, however, the widespread legend that the German Foreign Office protested about the case cannot be proved through official channels. Furthermore, no personal or direct communication between the Kaiser and his uncle, King Edward the Seventh, has been found, despite widespread legend that this was definitely the case. Lastly, questions raised in the House of Commons on April 8th, 1902, were answered by an instance that the War Office, the Foreign Office, or Lord Kitchener had not received any such communication on the subject on behalf of the German government. Under international law, the German government had no grounds to protest. And Germany had only been a country for 1877, 1878. I don't remember exactly what year. So only 30 years before this.
That's
30, 35
insane.
years. Well, a unified country, of
Yeah, I
course.
know. I know. But that's still insane.
It's still wild, yeah.
In my opinion.
Whereas England had been a country for a while, and they had been on the conquest for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, Germany has been around for
a really long
time, but as a big,
Yeah.
just whole country, not that just blows my mind.
Yeah, I didn't find out about until the German unification until around whenever I started looking into World War One stuff, or around end of 2015, and Andrew knew about it, and I was like, "What in the world? Did you know this?" He's like, "Yeah, I knew this. German unification hadn't been a thing for a while," and I was like, "Holy smoke!
This is blowing my mind.
You're blowing my mind right now, bruv." Despite being attached to the Berlin Missionary Society, Reverend Hess had been born in Cape Colony and was, technically speaking, a British, not German citizen. The scene contains a kernel of truth, however. Leach writes, several eminent South African historians, local enthusiasts, and commentators share the opinion that had it not been for the murder of the Reverend Hess, none of their Bushveld Carbineers murders would have gone to trial. That's what is generally agreed upon, which is accurate to the film, or not accurate to the film, but like it does say a kernel of truth, which is accurate. I'd say. Although only Lieutenants Morant, Hancock, and Whitten are shown as being on trial, there were 3 other defendants. Lieutenant Henry Picton, a British-born Australian officer of the Bushveld Carbineers, was charged with Lieutenants Morant, Hancock, and Whitten with committing the offense of murder for delivering a coup de grace after the shooting of the wounded prisoners Floris Visser. Lieutenant Picton was found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to be cashiered from the British Armed Forces. Captain Alfred James Taylor, the Irish-born commander of the military intelligence at Fort Edward, stood accused of the murder of 6 unarmed Afrikaner men and boys, the theft of their money and livestock, and the subsequent murder of a Bushveld Carbineers trooper. He was acquitted. Alfred James Taylor was the guy that was the accuser in this movie.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Major Robert W. Linehan, the Australian field commander of the Bushveld Carbineers, stood accused of covering up the murder of a Bushveld Carbineers trooper who had disapproved of shooting prisoners. The official charge was when on active service by culpable neglect failing to make a report which it was duty to make. Major Linehan was found guilty and sentenced to be reprimanded. So the two of them, Morant and Hancock, being executed, were like the 2 biggest ones. Whitten was sentenced to life in prison and then got out 3 years later.
Yeah. Which
one of them got cashiered. One of the other guy was acquitted, and the other one was reprimanded.
Gotcha.
So
was the dude that got out 3 years into his life sentence, was that like the British Army that just was like, yeah, what we did was kind of bad?
No, I think he was out on good behavior is what it was. Good behavior.
They probably just felt bad.
No. Let me find it real fast. It's extremely like, okay, well, a bit of a dick. George Whitten. George Ramsdale Whitten, 1874 to August 14th, 1942, was lieutenant in the Bushveld Carbineers in the Boer War in South Africa. He sentenced to death for murder after the shooting of 9 Boer prisoners. He was subsequently reprieved by Lieutenant General Viscount Kitchener. Although Lieutenants Peter Hancock and Harry Breaker Morant, who had been court-martialed with him, were executed by firing squad on February 27th, 1902. So yeah, it is like 1 year after the events, it seems. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where that part is. Okay, here you go. Oh, here we go. It's actually, after the killing of a number of Boer prisoners, Whitten was one of 4 officers charged by the British Army with murder and convicted. However, he strongly protested and secured a legal opinion from Isaac Isaacs, KC, an Australian member of Parliament, who recommended that he petition him the King, for a pardon. Kitchener commuted Whitten's sentence to life imprisonment. After further protests, he was released on August 11th, 1904, although not pardoned. He had been ill twice in prison in England, once from arsenic fumes in a metal shop, and once from typhoid fever. Ugh, yikes. He returned to Australia on November 14th, 1904, embittered after 3 years in prison, and wrote a book giving his version of the events involving Morant, Hancock, and the Bushveld Carbineers. So he was just like a lot of protesting. Yeah, I really want to read the book now. His book. I'm sure there's other books involving it.
I'm sure there are plenty of other books that'll like
Oh, they're totally
It'll go through like the events, but I mean, a first-hand account is something
that's one that you want. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, real quick. Because we're already at 18 minutes.
Nope, we're cutting it here.
Burning the midnight oil. The enlisted men from the Fort Edward garrison who testify against Lieutenants Morant, Hancock, and Whitten are depicted as motivated by personal grudges against their former officers. A prime example is Corporal Sharp, who expresses a willingness to walk across South Africa to serve in the defendant's firing squad. Other prosecution witnesses have been thrown out of the Bushveld Carbineers by the defendants for looting, drunkenness, and other offenses. Furthermore, all are portrayed with British accents in the film. The officer commanding at Petersburg, Colonel Hall, is further depicted as having been fully aware and even complicit in the total war tactics of the Fort Edward garrison. He is also described as having been sent to India to prevent him from giving testimony favorable to the defense. Surviving documents, however, tell a very different story. The arrest of all 6 defendants was actually ordered by they were ordered by Colonel Hall. The arrest of all 6 of them in response to a letter that he had received from the enlisted men at Fort Edward. The letter, dated October 4th, 1901, which this took place. The murders took place in April and August. April to August. The letter, dated October 4th, 1901, was written by BVC Trooper Robert Mitchell Cochrane, a former Justice of the Peace from Western Australia, and signed by 15 members of the Fort Edward garrison. After listing numerous murders and attempted murders of unarmed Boer prisoners, local civilians, and BVC personnel who disapproved, the letter concluded, "Sir, many of us are Australians who have fought throughout nearly the whole war, while others are Afrikaners who have fought from Colenso to now. We cannot return home with the stigma of these crimes attached to our names. Therefore, we must humbly pray that a full and exhaustive inquiry be made by imperial officers in order that the truth be elicited and justice done. We beg that all witnesses may be kept in camp at Petersburg till the inquiry is finished. So deeply do we deplore the opprobrium which must be inseparably attached to these crimes that scarcely a man, once his time is up, can be prevailed to enlist in this corps. Trusting for the credit of thinking you will grant the inquiry we seek." So, yeah. Very fancy. No one talks about it
that sounded so British.
Very, very British.
I was lost in the Britishness.
That's
how you watch Doctor Who, by the way.
It is. You just get lost in the English.
Lost in the most
Britishness.
English and British
with some kind of weird sci-fi stuff and thrown in.
Yeah. Well, even then, that's very British sci-fi.
It is. It is funny to see the difference between American sci-fi, like Back to the Future and all that stuff, and then Doctor Who and all that.
Yeah.
During his conversation with Lieutenants Hancock and Whitten in the prison courtyard, Lieutenant Moran alleges that the British Army has marked them for death ever since they arrested us at Fort Edward. In reality, the arrest took place elsewhere. In response to the letter written by Trooper Cochrane, Colonel Hall summoned all Fort Edward officers and non-commissioned officers to Petersburg on October 21st, 1901. All were met by a party of mounted infantry 5 miles outside Petersburg on the morning of October 23rd, 1901, and brought into town like criminals. Lieutenant Morant was arrested after returning from leave in Pretoria, where he had gone to settle the affairs of his deceased friend, Captain Hunt. Last one. In the film, the British military is determined to obtain the maximum penalty against the defendants. According to Australian historians Margaret Carnegie and Frank Shields, however, Lieutenants Morant and Hancock rejected an offer of full immunity from prosecution in return for turning King's evidence. In King's evidence, a criminal turns state's evidence or King's evidence by admitting guilt for testifying as a witness for the state against his associates or accomplices, often in exchange for leniency in sentencing or immunity from prosecution. The testimony of a witness who testifies against co-conspirators may be important evidence. Oh boy. Okay.
That's a lot to take in.
Well, I got like one more paragraph.
Oh no.
Or a quarter of a paragraph.
Okay.
I'll be done in a second. I promise. I promise.
Reads like a history book.
It does. You hate history books.
Yeah.
It is. See, stuff like this makes me so excited. Military prosecutors allegedly hope to use them as witnesses against BVC Major Robert Linehan, who I'm sure it's like Linehan because it's Australian.
Yeah.
Anyway, who was believed to have issued orders to take no prisoners. Towards the end of the film, Captain Taylor informs Morant that the British Army will never dare to prosecute him as he really can implicate Kitchener in war crimes. According to South African historian Andreas Pretorius, the trial of Alfred Taylor was almost certainly saved for the last because the prosecution must have been hoping in vain for the accused officers to implicate Taylor. The refusal to do so seems to have ensured that Taylor was not convicted at his own trial. So, did you catch any of that?
Something about
something about.
Am I gonna be tested?
There's a test after this.
No.
So, who was shot? Trevor, what do you think of the film overall? I guess let's get into our final thoughts of the film.
Oh yeah, the film is great.
The film was great. What do you think of the situation that the film is based on? The situation involving everything.
Much bull crap.
It is. It is
bull crap on their part, on the British part,
on the Boer part. Also,
yeah.
I'd say
it's like a bunch of just a bunch of buttholes that just came together and tried to screw each other.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I don't want to say it's not so much the case anymore, but we never hear of anything like this. It is, of course, being the first court-martialing of this caliber in the British military history.
Yeah.
1901, 1902.
We don't hear about this, but I'm pretty sure stuff like this happens.
Stuff like this still happens. Probably not to this degree with this much outcry and this much knowledge behind it, but stuff like that still happens, I imagine.
That's still just...
There's also...
It gets
there
under
are
my
full-fledged rules of war, which... War is really... Here's my soapbox. War is really just...
it's all political.
Political men telling non-political men to go kill each other. It's really all it is.
Yeah.
And we saw this film is very anti-war, and we see that a lot.
I think most of the films for any World War film, most of them are anti-war.
And then the two that we saw prior to this, Zulu lesser, but Zulu still, and Breaker Morant more.
Yeah. The one I
are
have
anti-films.
is definitely anti-war.
The two that I have picked out are anti-war also.
It's hard to find something that's absolutely pro-war.
It is hard to find. I feel like because those films, no one agrees with them anymore.
Maybe Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about Pearl Harbor, the Michael Bay one.
Yeah.
Yikes!
I think that's a pro-war film for the most part.
Yeah, I'd say
at the very end, like it gets to Pearl Harbor and everyone cries and it's sad and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But then like we go into getting back at those Japs.
Uh-oh. We're gonna have to censor that part.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I know one's gonna clip that and use it for anything else against you later in life, so don't worry about it.
Good. Blackmail.
I had another joke, but I'm not going to say anything. So the themes in this one aren't the heaviest we're going to see throughout our expedition, but they're really heavy. Obviously, if you have a moral objection to a duty that's been given to you by an officer or a superior, then you're going to have to say, no, I don't want to. But then you're going to end up like the guy that we didn't see in the real life situation.
Yeah.
Being killed by your own men.
Being killed.
Being shot.
That's what some of the soldiers wore.
Being executed by your own men, people that you thought were friends because you morally object to killing prisoners.
That's terrible.
Yeah, so you either agree with them and do it and then get tried for murder,
and then
which you already did before, or you get killed by your own men. So I'd say there isn't a winning situation in this one.
What if you killed your men? I'm sorry. That was a dumb thing.
Whether they're on your side or not, you're still killing people.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to throw a wrench in the...
Don't, dude.
Wrench in the problem. Gears, whatever the analogy is. I don't know.
Do you have any closing thoughts on the film?
8 out of 10.
Is that your closing thought?
Yeah, it is 8 out of 10. IGN.
Yeah, 8 out of 10 IGN. Do you have a war movie rating, perhaps?
War movie. Definitely like a 9 out of 10 out of war movies.
It's a 10 out of 10 for me in both regards. 10 out of 10. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it is a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
I tried to keep myself from doing this, but whenever they were about to get executed, the sunrise, I want to go, nice again, yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to.
Completely where I was not.
No.
I'm relishing in the fact that these two guys are about to be executed.
I realize that. No, I realize that, but sometimes my mind just goes to jokes, even
ADHD?
when they don't. Even when they don't need to. Thank you.
So yeah, the film for me is a 10 out of 10 in both regards. It's beautifully crafted, beautifully shot. I did not know the guy that did the cinematography for it is like such a prolific.
Mrs. Stoutfire.
He's done a lot of movies. Predator.
He was the one that said yes to the Mrs. Doubtfire scene. Hello. You know the scene.
Oh, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it, baby boy.
Baby boy.
The story being based off of real one's great. The editing is really good, where it's like it cuts back and forth from stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. All the actors are really good. Yeah, I sincerely recommend everyone to watch the Zulu and Breaker Morant. They're separated only by time frame and only by story setting. They're both in Africa, and they're both by English men, conscripted men. But they're two somewhat very different sides.
What, 30-year difference?
70, 78, 77, whenever the Anglo-Zulu War was. So 70.
So that would
77, 78, 79. So
that would be like 20,
21, 22, 23 years, something like that, yeah. 25 years max.
Yeah.
The Boer War ended. Okay, Google. When did the Boer War end?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
Shut up.
Hey, it's rude, dude. All right, well, that's not listening anyway. How do you not know when
It probably didn't understand.
the word Boer?
Yeah. Boer.
You're supposed to say Boer War? Let's find out. Okay, Google. When did the Boer War end?
The Second World
All right, well, we're unplugging that bitch.
Hey, Peter.
1902. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
You dumb bitch.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Peter. So yeah, everyone should watch all these movies. I think they're wonderful films.
Yes.
So
great.
Today's Sunday, barely still Sunday. Tomorrow we are going to actually start our World War I Great War adventure. I don't know what we're gonna.
We need to end on a high note, or no? Wait.
We don't need to end on a high. The war didn't end on a high note.
Well, I was going to say end on a high note. High note. Save mine for last, but I don't want to spoil anything. So, never mind.
That's fine. So, Trevor, thank you for being here for today. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll text you what time or whatever to come back.
Hopefully, I'm awake when you send me the text.
So yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, and you guys will see us in just a few seconds, maybe a minute or two.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. It's been a day for us, but it's been just a few moments for you guys. Welcome back to our Veterans Day special, 100-year commemorative special. The first two films we watched, Zulu and Breaker Morant, were
Yes.
good and were pre-war based.
Yes. Now we've
Um,
gotten to the
And now
the
we've
main
gotten
show.
into the actual Great War.
Now it's for the main event, the big showdown.
Yeah, the main event.
The what they called the Great War.
Yeah, World War I, the war to end all wars.
It didn't.
Spoiler alert, there's another one 25 years later or so, around that.
There's a few more after that as well.
Yeah. So, hey, they were wrong.
Yeah.
For the first movie, we watched Joyeux Noel, and my French isn't as good as it used to be. Pardon-moi. But here, I have the Wikipedia article ready this time, Trevor.
Does it say?
Does it say
Well,
what?
no. I was going to say maybe it's pronounced joie.
Joie? No, that's spelled differently.
Okay.
It's Joyeux Noel. Merry Christmas in French. Merry Christmas is a 2005 epic war drama film based on the Christmas truce of December 1914, depicted through the eyes of the French, Scottish, and German soldiers on the Western Front. It was written and directed by Christian Carion. It was screened out of competition at the 2005 Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so
it was a great movie.
it was a very,
I gotta
very good
say,
movie.
it's my favorite from what we've seen so far, in my opinion.
It's really good. It's a really good movie. The material, of course, is like obviously the movie isn't 100% accurate, and on Wikipedia there isn't a historical inaccuracies list. But I think it's safe to say that spoilers, but there's a spoiler alert at the very beginning of this, an hour ago almost.
Yeah.
Obviously, a tenor's wife, an opera singer tenor's wife, isn't going to be in the trenches with him for like 2 days during Christmas. That's just not possible.
Yeah, I don't think this feels a lot like
a dramatized movie is what it does feel like, with a lot of like very heavy and accurate source.
Yeah, I was going to say historical fiction.
Ow, that really hurt. Historical fiction, but like very, very strongly like historically accurate and historically based.
Yeah, a lot of historical fiction is.
I think it's safe to say this is like the best or not the best adaptation, like the best version of a based on a true story movie.
Oh,
this is like probably the best of that there is.
Oh, so it is based on a true story.
Yes, yeah. No, so the Christmas truce of 1914 happened all across the Western Front in France and in Europe, in between the German and French and English forces. English and French being on the same side.
And Scottish in this movie.
Well, they're all under the English flag.
Oh, okay. I got
Same thing with the Anzacs and fighting the Ottomans in the Middle East. They were all under the English flag, but they were called Anzacs.
I got you.
Yeah. So that's why their commanding officer was English, even though he was wearing the Scottish attire, because he was part of the Highlanders unit, whatever it would have been called.
Okay.
What I think is interesting is that in Breaker Morant, it's not the same Highlander unit that executed the Bushveld Carbineers, but it's a Highlander unit, like in the last movie, and they still have like the same general attire and all that.
Yeah.
So we are seeing like that took place in 1902. 1901, 1902, 1903, and this takes place 10, 11, 12 years afterwards. This film does.
Yeah.
But like you're starting to see the gaps close in between all of history and all that. It is also I mentioned this to you while we were watching it. It's very funny to see one of the older French people refer to the Germans as those damn Prussians.
Oh yeah, the Prussians.
Because the unification only happened in 1871 or whatever.
And that's terrible, honestly. I don't get... I mean, I guess I get why they didn't want to be like, our soldiers were buddy-buddy with the enemy, because if you think about it today, if our soldiers were buddy-buddy with the Taliban... Or
ISIS, or
something, that would raise a few eyebrows.
So let's get directly into this film's moral... I wouldn't say moral dilemma, but like moral standing and moral cause. It's like you have the soldiers who are actually the ones fighting.
They're just doing what they're told.
They're doing what they're told to do, and you have the same thing with Breaker Morant, where it's like he was just following orders from a bigwig, a general, a higher up, an officer, and then you have in this film soldiers and field officers following the orders of higher ups, bigwigs,
until they're like
officers.
It's Christmas.
Well, yeah, like what. You understand, like, it's Christmas. Are we going to kill each other? Really, we're going to kill each other on Christmas, even on Christmas?
Yeah.
And then the day after Christmas? And it's like, well, no.
No.
We're not, because we're still human. We're still people. And there's no difference between the Germans, the French, and the Scottish.
Yeah, and they became friends, so it was harder for them to, like, actually kill each other. So...
Yeah. One thing that aggravated me is showed, I don't know what his ranking was, but the... officer that came back to the trenches that was like, shoot that guy at the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, shoot that guy. If one person's running across the trench, and they establish that later on, there's usually a reason why it's just one guy running across the trench in broad daylight. Yeah, they would be shot down almost all the time. Like 99% of the time they would be shot down.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's no reason for one guy to be running across the trenches.
What do they call it? It's not the trenches that they
No
call
man's land.
No man's land.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no reason for one guy to run across. In that situation, I feel like it would have been smarter for them to not shoot and wait for him to come back and see what the issue is.
Yeah, he had no weapons either.
Yeah, he was unarmed. So there's like really no point. And so the officer, I guess, wanted to further cement the point of like, these are the enemy, you need to kill them. And so the one kid whose brother died was the one that killed the, turns out, not German guy, the French guy, that was disguising himself as a German to go see his mother on the other side of France that was captured by Germany. Pretty heavy stuff.
It's not a fun romp.
It's not a fun romp. It's a sad romp.
Through the snowy hills of France.
Do you have any? We're only at 9 minutes. A quick boy. Do you want to talk any more about the themes, or the heavy overarching themes, or what the movie means to you?
I'm
gonna grab my water.
I don't know what it means as a whole necessarily. Ugh.
Well,
It's.
Here you go. Here's a good way to put it. How does the movie make you feel? Here's more water.
Thank you. Honestly, it makes me feel depressed. Just a little bit. Because, like, those men, they're just men.
Yeah, they're just
It's
people.
the thing.
At the
They
very,
want to. It's like the whole like propaganda of like
which was World War I was like the very first
that
war.
Is absolutely the enemy, no questions asked.
Yeah,
like that. That's it. And I don't like that. It's easy to do that even today, being like, oh, the Taliban, they're going to like blow us up and stuff. ISIS,
only because of like, well, the ISIS one's somewhat of a different story, but like the Taliban one is like they're just defending where they live, and I'm not saying that I'm on their side. I'm just saying that maybe war's a bad thing. That's my standing on all of it.
Our idea, we instantly see them as bad people. We don't see them as like people. They have families. They're just defending their homeland as well.
That's why, like, the French at the I'm on a microphone. That's why the French at the very beginning of the That's why the French at the very beginning of the film were like very, very cautious to go outwardly or to go openly approach the Germans, because the Germans had just spent a few months capturing France.
Yeah, but that's not the men. You know.
Well, yeah. So it's like, how do I say this lightly? If I hit you with a Nerf gun and the Nerf gun shoots you in both your eyes directly, am I the one that's at fault, or are you like, man, this Nerf gun sucks, I hate this Nerf gun, it shoots me in the eyeballs?
No, I'm gonna get mad at you.
Okay, I'm the one wielding the Nerf gun. But if I shoot you with a different Nerf gun and it doesn't hit you in the eyeballs, are you gonna say, oh, that's the Nerf gun that hit me in the eyeballs?
No.
I feel like not you, but other people will be like, don't use that Nerf gun, it shot me in the eyeballs. Right? That's just the comment. That's just like the very baseline.
I don't see like a weapon as being at fault. I see the man behind the weapon.
Yeah. And I think that's us now looking at it retrospectively, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess.
But the thing that really aggravated me at the very end of the movie, or like the last 30 minutes or so, is the English Catholic priest talking about how like the eradication of the Germans is the only answer.
Yes, you must kill all of them because the Lord said so. The Lord did not say so. He read a very. I forget what it was exactly where
it was in Matthew somewhere.
I remember that it was the scripture that said, "I am not here to bring peace." Jesus talking.
Yeah.
I am not here to bring peace. I am a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses that
to take
it
out of context. Yeah, you take it crazy out of context.
Completely out of context. That's
like
not what he's talking about. He's not here to bring peace to the world. He's here to get rid of sin.
Yeah.
That's the context of...
You pick and choose the context, and that was used a lot, and it's still being used today, obviously.
It is, and I hate it.
One of the situations that pertains to me, that's not history-related, was the whole PewDiePie situation, where it's like he did for context, the kill all Jews thing. He did that joke with the Fiverr guys, and that's what is what got his PewDiePie
makes a
season 2.
Racist joke. He hates Jews. That wasn't the whole situation.
No. He did a video to see how far these guys would do for, or what these guys would do for $5.
It was in bad taste, granted.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I
still crack up with that whole video. It's deleted from his channel now, but that still video cracks me up because of how absurd it is.
Yeah, I can see how it's funny for absurdism, but
But
It was
so-
just in bad taste. I feel.
but it's like the same thing. You pick and choose your context. Obviously, the context that better suits the English higher ups is the Germans are Huns who want to kill and rape everybody and will stop at nothing until they've killed every civilized person that there is. And I'll throw up on screen right now a propaganda poster showing the Germans as being these beasts in clothes.
Oh wait, yeah. It was like a gorilla or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that was World War II though.
Well, I've always done that. And see, if they had just like in World War II, it was more of like it's not the German soldiers, it's the Schutzstaffel and the higher ups that want to eradicate a race. You have to separate the two very clearly. But yeah, that one is more of like very clearly Germany is bad because they're killing millions of Jews. I mean, there's a genocide in World War One also, the Armenian genocide.
Yeah.
And people will tell you otherwise. But their Armenian genocide there's another one of those happening. So war has always been used to push an ideological method. It's always the perfect opportunity. So, and I think it's interesting how very early on in World War One, how the English in particular were like, all right, boys, another war against the Germans. Oh, let's do this then. And like they were immediately rolling into like the Germans are the enemy no matter what anybody says. And here's proof.
Yeah, and even that idea persists even today. Like even today, like I hear people just be like, I hate Germans.
That's the South. I feel like that's just our area of the South. One thing I think is hilarious.
I do hear a lot of people think that Germany is still Nazi.
Well, they're dumbasses. Fun fact. I saw this on someone's Instagram post that used to live in Germany. You can guess as to who. I'm not going to say any names. And it's like, what? Why don't you live here anymore instead of living in Nazi land? And the person's relative was like laid her fucking straight and is like, actually, you're a dumbass, and here's reasons as to why. And this is like a young person. It was hilarious. And I'm like, man,
funny.
What a dumbass.
It's stupid.
It is stupid.
Like
the same thing. Well, the same animosity towards the Japanese in World War II. Like,
oh yeah,
I still know someone. I don't know if he's still alive now. I haven't talked to him in a really long time. He still hates the blacks. He still hates the Jews. He still hates the Japanese. And that happened 70 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I don't get it.
I don't either. It's still persistent, and I think that's what our generation's going to be really good about, is like seeing that people are people, and not seeing so much.
I guess, but then there's still the neo-Nazis that are popping up.
Yeah, but it's like they're not young people though. There are a lot of. Well, I don't see them. I don't see any of the young people.
I thought I saw a few like young leaders, like they were the ones like shouting with the signs.
What was that one? They were the ones doing.
I didn't mean. No, I meant like they're the one.
Yeah,
they were the ones with the signs.
Yeah, but like I feel like it's not going to be.
I should say that they are the minority.
Yeah,
that's what I.
Good.
We hope.
Yeah. But yeah, you want
to. By the way,
any...
KKK meeting.
When you wrap this up, the KKK meetings in a few minutes. Did you see that thing, that GIF from Red Dead Redemption 2? There was a KKK meeting being held in the forest, and this guy lit a stick of dynamite and threw it off into the middle of the group, and it blew all of them up. It was really, really funny.
I haven't seen that.
It was very funny.
I kind of want to mention this. The only funny Tyler Perry scene that I remember. Okay. There's
a handful.
That's it. There is a handful, but there is one funny scene where Medea she's going to the south, and she walks in on this random building, and everyone turns around, and it's a KKK meeting, and they just turn around and see a large black man dressed as a large black woman.
That's so funny.
So one, they would hate black people, and then 2, they hate women, and 3, they hate cross-dressers. So
that's hilarious. I bet that was like actually a really funny. That sounds like an SNL bit.
It was a funny scene. It was even in the trailers.
So really funny.
It defeats the purpose of watching the entire movie just to see that scene. So
there you go. Hey, save yourself a few bucks.
Watch the trailer on YouTube.
Yeah, watch the trailer on YouTube.
A Medea Christmas. It is a Medea Christmas.
No, I know. That's just how they're all named is just quite humorous.
Yes.
But yeah. So this movie, let's close the bad boy up. Where's my freaking? I pulled my cell phone into the wall. So the movie is. This is the most anti-war one we've seen. All three of them have been relatively anti-war. Breaker Morant more so than Zulu, but
yeah. Zulu was just more like telling what
man,
happened.
Man, war sucks, and here's the story about a battle, and then Breaker Morant's like, man,
war sucks.
Man, war sucks, and also the higher ups, am I right? And then this one's like, war is hell, and here's proof. So I'm pretty sure all the ones that we're going to be seeing, I think a large majority of them are anti-war movies.
Oh yeah, mine definitely is anti-war.
Yours definitely is. The Joyeux Noel was. Next three that I have,
like I said earlier, it's just hard to find like a pro-war or even a neutral.
Yeah, it is.
War
It is
movie.
hard. It is hard to find. Even like in recent movies, I'm taking American Sniper for example, which I enjoyed the movie, but like
I haven't watched it. I do know about the fake baby scene.
It's hilarious, and I didn't even notice it watching it. I was so enraptured by the story and the content. The actual guy, I don't remember what his name is, Chris Kyle, I guess, I don't know. He was like a pretty racist asshole in real life.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the sniper dude?
The real guy was like an asshole kind of.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like it's a good movie by Clint Eastwood. He does a great job every time.
Mm-hmm.
The story
loves our army, by the way. Which is
he's very very pro-military. The movie is great and the story's great. The action's great. They get a lot of like things accurate, which I appreciate. I'm a big military history person, and the more they get accurate, the better they get accurate, I'd say.
Yeah.
And that's great. However, the source material that's based off of, guy's kind of an asshole. We'll throw up a quote right now.
What's the quote?
Ooh. Actually, I'll let you see it when it comes out.
Oh, okay,
a week
thank
from
you.
now. Yeah.
Hold on.
You home to loan me.
I was reacting to the quote that I haven't seen yet.
The very tasteless casually, right? No, it's the same casual racism as Tokyo, Japan. That thing.
Oh.
It's like the same casual racism, but like a bit more than that.
Like the whole like bit where we watched Ringu.
Hey, pipe down the walls of rice paper. Yeah, yeah. We sleep on the floor. Yeah. It's like that, except he's being serious. He's from Texas, so he's being serious. So yeah. Anyway, any closing thoughts on 2005 Joyeux Noel? Merry
Please
Christmas.
respect your fellow man, especially this upcoming holiday season.
Yeah, exactly. Watch this movie. It's a good movie. It was an hour 56.
Yeah.
So
not too long.
Well, then yours is gonna be the longest one that we see.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be nice.
It's a good 2.5 hours. Sorry.
Yeah. Wish that we had enough time to watch another one tonight, but we don't. I think it's raining outside.
Shut up.
Pipe down the rain, huh, buddy? The walls are made out of rice paper. What would you give for a film score and for a military film score?
Oh, it's a good solid like 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a war movie, I'm going to have to say 7.5.
But yeah, so to close, I would give the film a 9 out of 10 for overall movies, and I'd give it a 10 out of 10 for a war movie. Okay. Even though you see very minimal action, there's not a lot of gore. The themes and the emotional story aspect, the overarching theme is what propels it so high. I feel like that's what the movie's about. The movie's not here to show people getting blown up and shot to death and graphic blood like in Saving Private Ryan. Not a visceral scene. That's
not what I was expecting in this movie necessarily.
Yeah. The next ones are going to be that.
Mine's not as bloody, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next film that we're watching tomorrow.
Cool.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our Veterans Day special. For you, it's been a few minutes. For us, it's been another whole day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for continuing to watch this and for joining us again. For this movie that we watched, I had to break out the Uniforms of World War One book. Thank you so much, Andrew, for getting that for me for Christmas last year. Trevor, we watched The Silent Mountain,
Yes.
which came out in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I have the thing on my phone. Should have had it ready this time.
We'll get to our thoughts about the movie.
We'll get to our thoughts. Let me do the setup premise here. The Silent Mountain is a 2014 war drama written by Clemens Aufderklam and produced and directed by Ernst Gosner, set in the Dolomite Mountains, 1915 to 1916. The Silent Mountain is a love story, which I should have seen that before we started watching it.
I mean, I could kind of tell that there was going to be some sort of love story from the cover.
My apologize. It's my fault.
Well, love stories aren't bad, though.
Most of the time, though, they are not good. The Silent Mountain is a love story set in the Dolomiti Mountains at the outbreak of World War I between Italy and Austria-Hungary in 1915. So the war had been going on for a year at this point.
Yeah. But this was the Austrians and Germans versus the Italians, correct?
Well, in 1915, it was the Germans were only helping as an advisory thing.
Oh, okay.
Until 1917, where it was like, yo, we're out of troops.
Yo.
So, the plot of the movie. The story begins on May 1915 in South Tyrol, where Anderl Gruber, I gotta switch my brain to speaking German names now, a son of a rich hotel owner, is attending the wedding of his sister Elizabeth with Italian Angelo Calzo.
The calzones.
Calzolari. There he meets Angelo's sister Francesca. Calzolari. Sorry, I apologize. There he meets Angelo's sister Francesca, with whom he falls in love. However, the same day, Italy declares war on Austria-Hungary. Accurate. I wasn't sure if it was, but that part is accurate. I'll get into the reason why.
Yeah.
The tensions present between Austrians and Italians immediately escalate into the conflict between them, and they both joined their respective armies. With the expulsion of Italians by the villagers, Francesca is forced to hide her identity. However, Fritz Weinberger, a local teacher who returned from the front and has particularly strong hatred towards Italians, exploits this and offers Francesca to protect her identity in exchange for sexual favors. Rape.
Rape.
An Austrian army platoon.
He was a teacher, too. Wow.
Hilarious.
I hate that.
I also hate teachers. I don't. An Austrian army platoon occupies the adjacent mountains and repulse initial assaults of Alpini, who are trying to climb a mountain. Later, they are reinforced by a German. Oh, good lord. Gebergsjäger. Gebergsjägers unit. Meanwhile, Anderl discovers Francesca's affair with Fritz and returns to the front in rage, where he single-handedly repulses a massive attack of Italian infantry. I bet he does.
Oh.
As the following Italian offensive also fails, which that's also historically accurate. Nicola Cinziato, the commander of Italian garrison, orders Angelo, an experienced civil engineer.
The opera singer.
Yeah.
Oh.
An experienced civil engineer to dig a tunnel below the Austrian positions. Initially, it is planned to launch an offensive through the tunnels, but later Cinziato decides to set explosives below the mountain to blow up the Austrian troops. Angelo is discharged immediately after that and sent to the regular infantry, thus exposing him to the dangers of war. Sometime later, Angelo is caught by the Austrians, where he reveals the Italian plans to blow up the mountain. Anderl helps Angelo to return to their village, while the German-Austrian troops decide to hold the mountain despite the imminent danger. Unfortunately, Angelo's identity is quickly discovered, and he's summarily executed by Austrian troops while Elizabeth is watching.
And their baby.
Yeah.
That was probably the saddest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
Okay. Anyway, that's like the overall story of that. Let me pull up Italian World War I, mountain conflict. Okay, the Italian Front or Alpine Front was a series of battles at the border between Austria-Hungary and Italy, fought between 1915 and 1918 in World War I. Following the secret promises made by the Allies in the Treaty of London, Italy entered the war in order to annex the Austrian littoral and northern Dalmatia and the territories of present-day Trentino and South Tyrol. Although Italy had hoped to gain the territories with a surprise offensive, the front soon bogged down into trench warfare. As that was the case throughout the entire war. Everyone thought that. It was like, we'll just move in quick and then we'll be done. And then, like, they move in fast, and, like, midway they get cut down with trench warfare. That's just what it evolved to on every single front. Yeah, they even say here, to trench warfare, similar to the Western Front fought in France, but at high altitudes with very cold winters.
I am so glad that that trench warfare just kind of like
it just doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad it just ended at this point.
Trench warfare is like such only in World War I thing. Like, it never happened like ever again. Fighting along the front displaced much of the civilian population, of which several thousands died from malnutrition and illness in Italian and Austrian refugee camps. The Allied victory at Vittorio Veneto, the disintegration of Austria-Hungary, and the Italian capture of Trento, Bolzano, and Trieste.
Hi, paisanos.
It's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Ended the military operations. So, I won't go throughout the entire mountain conflict in between Austria-Hungary and Italy, but basically, for like the first couple years of the war, 1915, 16, and mid-17, was like Italy was just losing badly. They were trying to like capture up. And up is where the mountains are. There's a reason why there's borders along the mountains is because you're not going to go cross mountains.
Yeah.
But they're like, you know what? There's two areas that are controlled by Austria that are ripe for the pickings. And so they would try to go after them, and like it failed for like 3 years. That's why you have 11 battles of the Isonzo River.
11
battles that took over the course of like 2 years. 11 separate battles.
At some point,
you think they would say, you know what? Maybe we can't.
You know what? The power mushroom kind of wore off. Let's go back to the motherland, get some spaghetti, and just call it a day. Hey.
Yeah. They didn't do that. They instead kept fighting battles in and around the Isonzo River. So yeah.
You think the general that kept doing that, every time he would go home for Christmas, his mom would be like, "Oh, yeah, idiot! You fucking idiot!"
Like the Long Island.
Slaps his head just constantly. Why do you keep doing that? Come on! Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so that's the real life things that happen. Mostly just like Austria-Hungary lost they lost for like a small handful of reasons. They're in the mountains.
Yeah.
1, they were constantly defending. 2, and the difference in languages, which we'll get into in the movie here in a second. But like Austria-Hungary was an empire of like 12 or more countries.
Yeah.
So you consistently had armies where you had Austrians speaking to Hungarians, and then like 12 different languages being spoken in one army. That doesn't work. That's never going to work.
Ever hear of the Tower of Babel?
Well, also a thing that can equate now is like esports. You have the European esports teams. A majority of the European esports team are all English-speaking people. Like are English people, like Irish, Scottish, English, and then you have like French and German and other people.
Yeah.
But they're all in one European team. But, like, you never hear of the European esports teams doing very well. And, like, the language barrier is definitely something that, like, is noticeable.
Yeah.
Especially with the movie and in real life. Now, that's the battle. That's the overall conflict that the film is based off of. Now, straight to the movie.
Oh, Lord.
Wow, is this a doozy of a film? 5.5 on IMDb, and I'm feeling it. Trevor, would you like to talk about the movie?
Let's see. It was a beautifully.
You were going to say, I would not like to talk about the movie.
Okay, I'm sorry, but
right.
I'll go ahead and talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a beautifully shot movie.
The cinematography is wonderful. The colors are wonderful, and like, the overall locations they actually shot in a lot of Italy.
The costumes were on point.
Yeah,
the weaponry
costume design's great. That's why I got the book out. Wildly accurate.
Yeah.
Maybe there was like maybe a few I could not notice, like pins or something missing or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to notice that. But the overall uniform and like year uniforms, they were pretty accurate. Like for 1915 15, 16, 17. They didn't
Yeah,
change the uniform.
and even the trenches. You said something about the Italians having stones in their trench.
Yeah.
That was accurate as well.
Yeah, because they weren't like digging down. They had to like dig like out and around stuff.
Gotcha.
Because it was like it's mountainside. You're not going to find a bunch of
You can't
mud
dig
and stuff.
down.
Yeah, you can't build a
mountain.
huge trench system. But they would have like a trench system along the mountainside, like going up.
Yeah.
But like you would have your trench still going down with them in like a main base and all that. I'm not gonna throw up a picture, only because like you can like Google Italian trenches, and the very first thing will be like Battlefield 1, and then stuff that we saw in the movie style trenches. So, but yeah, they looked accurate. The location was actually the Italian mountains. Beautiful scenery.
Yes. I liked some of the acting as well.
Some of the acting was good.
Yeah. I gotta say, not a fan of the movie overall, though.
You know, Trevor, I'll have to agree with you. I feel like
5.5 on IMDb. Come on.
Well, to see, the thing is, whenever I Googled World War I movie, I typed in World War I movie, 1915, and this was the first one that popped up, and I saw where it said Alpini Dolomite Front. I'm like, oh, cool, Italians and Austrians. We never see a movie about that, and so I downloaded it.
It's not a movie about that, though.
It's not a movie about that.
It's the
at all.
backdrop.
So, and also, here's what's aggravating: the 4 movies we've seen so far, out of the 4 we've seen so far, 3 of them have been anti-war to an extent. Well, this one, the war was a backdrop. The war was a setting for this one.
Yeah, I said.
Okay, so imagine The Notebook, which I've seen twice.
I have not seen it all. So
imagine The Notebook. I had a relationship once in my life, forever ago. Imagine The
Even
Notebook,
then, I would.
but in a war setting.
See, I was saying that
this
this movie was trying to rip off the Titanic.
I can see that. Although in the Titanic, there's a lot less sexual exploitation.
Yes, there is a lot less
and
of
shell
that.
shock.
Yeah, but the similarity is it's a love story during a tragedy.
Yes.
Like, that's what they're trying to accomplish. Except, you know what? It wasn't a tragedy for the 2 lovers in the end. They just walked off.
They left the mountain, yeah. With that mediocre at best dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget the mountain. The silent mountain.
The Silent Mountain. Dun-dun.
Which is the title is
The Silent Mountain.
The Silent Mountain, and it's pertaining to the end of the movie when all of his friend troops were destroyed by
No,
when all of his friends were killed by the Italian guy that exploded at the bottom of the mountain. Never happened, by the way.
Yeah.
But what did happen was avalanches. At a certain point, you're going to find all this fighting and explosives and battles is bad for the environment. You have that with offshore fracking now, where it's like they're causing earthquakes and shit like that, and tsunamis sometimes. Well, most of the time, at least these days. So that part is believable. There was a day like where 10,000 soldiers on both sides were killed,
But it was just
due to an avalanche. Yeah, it doesn't say.
Are we
it
talking
doesn't
like
say
avalanche, like a rock avalanche, or was it maybe a snow avalanche? Or
December 1916. So very potentially a snow avalanche.
okay, so that's very inaccurate to what we saw.
Yeah, and I believe if it's rocks, it's a landslide, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called a landslide.
Well, either way. We mentioned this one also. The main villain, Angelo, whatever. No, not even the main villain. The Italian villain.
Yeah,
was like
he's
a
the
Batman
best-
character.
He's the best character in the movie.
But you said that he is a great villain in another movie, and
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. He does not belong in this
he
film.
belongs in like a James Bond or a Sherlock Holmes movie, which I also compared him to Moriarty in the second Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
Like, what is it called? Sherlock Holmes, like a game is afoot or something.
and the Daughter of Thieves. I have no idea.
But it's actually a pretty good movie, and Moriarty is a very good villain in the movie. He sings opera while Sherlock is like hanging from a hook. It's great. He is
He's a wonderful.
He
villain.
doesn't look intimidating, but his mind is very intimidating.
And that's the point of that character.
That's the point of the
Whereas
character.
this guy looks like an Italian general. He's an Italian general, but like he's a supervillain in modern times, listening to opera and talking about mass
his
genocide.
dastardly deed is to blow up the entire mountain.
The entire mountain, the whole mountain.
It just said into me what his plan was. It is a 1960s Batman villain.
Yeah. And
Lord.
now, Batman, I'm going to blow up the mountain, and there's nothing that you can do to stop me. That's what happened in this movie. Except he blew up the mountain, which never happened.
Or could possibly happen.
But the whole point is, like, if you blow up a mountain, what's it going to do to your soldiers? Right?
He didn't care. That was...
The movie was dumb. I think it's safe to say. I did not enjoy the movie.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed parts of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed parts of it.
I feel like with Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
I overall like Batman v Superman. The movie was dumb to an extent, but I
Yeah.
enjoyed parts of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed parts of The Silent Mountain 2014.
Did not care for the main characters really
The
at all.
main characters were
Boring.
mediocre at best.
One note.
Yeah, in one note, boring. The love story. God, I wish I fucking saw where it's a romance drama.
I
with a
gotta say
historical
that
backdrop.
they can
Trevor?
work.
I apologize.
They can work. Just in this case, it didn't work.
Yeah, really the only thing, and I saw this on a historical forum about World War I movies. The guy said he gave it a C+. And he said the only thing saving this movie is the tremendous budget.
Yeah.
For them actually filming on location, the costumes, the historical setting and backdrop. That is what saved the movie.
And also, can I say the main character was a dumbass? He was a dumb ass.
The Austrian guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got shot in the shoulder because his friend got shot
his
right
friend gets shot,
beside
and
him.
instead of like getting down taking cover, he's just like
He was
for like
standing,
a good minute. He's just standing
he was
still.
standing like in the window where they could shoot him very easily.
But see, if it was like his friend got shot, then he got shot. Then it's like, oh well, they both get shot like around similar times. His friend died.
See, I could see
But if
like
it wasn't him, like his friend got shot.
wait like 5 minutes.
This goes on for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then he got shot because he was just like, he was just standing there.
See, I could
and then
see
he got
like
shot in the shoulder and then was hallucinating.
I could see
Then
this.
you made that joke. I'll go ahead and throw up the video of us making that like very offensive joke, but very funny.
Oh my goodness, they have it. Let's get this bread.
Did you see my?
Yeah.
What's happening now?
He's trying to play the
The Italians are torturing me. They're playing Funicola 10-hour bass boosted edition. No! No! Stop! Stop it!
So, there was, I could see the scene working like this. His friend getting shot, he turns around, like, yells his name, and, like, oh no, like, oh shit, my friend got shot, and then he got shot. Like,
Yeah,
literally,
that
like,
would be
3
fine.
seconds later.
Yeah.
That would have been fine. But no, he stands there for a good, like, 30,
minute.
30 seconds to a
He
minute.
stands like there for like a hot minute.
Yeah,
So-
just staring. And his superiors aren't like yelling at him to like get down or even pick up the gun and shoot.
Ooh, Silent Mountain has a 33 audience score.
Yeah,
Rotten
I
Tomatoes.
can see why.
I'm really trying. I'm trying to find budget, but apparently that wasn't released.
The budget wasn't released. Usually Wikipedia might have like
I'm looking. It's not on there.
Really?
Yeah, there's no like budget was missing. Yeah, missing budget.
Oh, that's dumb.
I bet it was high. I bet it was a lot.
Yeah.
Enough to film on location in Italy, and have all period accurate uniforms.
The
Minimum amount of CG.
the entire movie
One thing that
just
aggravated
was
me-
dumb.
Yes, as is with most romance dramas, I seem to find.
Yeah.
One thing that really aggravated me was and it would have been fine if they were consistent with it, the languages and the language barrier.
I forgot about that.
So, and we gathered about 30 minutes into the movie, the Italians were the ones speaking Italians with subtitles. And you may be
Yeah.
thinking, okay, that's fine. The Austrians were speaking English sometimes.
Yeah.
but sometimes they were dubbed over with English actors or like English dubs, but some of them were like English actors that were speaking English.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Italians were speaking to the Austrians were speaking in English, or sometimes they were speaking Italian, and the Austrians knew what they were saying in Italian. Sometimes you would have, it's so aggravating, and like for the first, I'd say no joke, probably 45 minutes, we did not gather what was happening. We were missing character. So to get into this one also, the story's all over the damn place.
Oh yeah,
there are two subplots happening simultaneously. We assume, while the main story's happening.
Yeah, there's like, I didn't even realize that there was an Italian man who had a wife, an Austrian wife.
We didn't realize that until like close to the end of the movie.
Yeah, and he finally sees his baby, and we're like,
oh, that's his wife. Yeah.
We didn't even know.
At no point during the film does he like have a picture of his wife. Does he mention, I have a wife, she's Austrian?
Yeah, we just see a lot of people at the beginning, and we don't know who the fuck they are.
And they never explain who anybody is either.
Yeah.
What doesn't help the story is that the language issue. The Italian speaking Italian with the subtitles, and then the Austrian speaking with English accents. We make the joke so many times when we're watching it. I'm not going to throw it up because we make it so many damn times. But it's like, oh, hello, good sir. I'm German and you're Austrian. And it's like, you could not have gathered that. So they rely on you to know the uniforms, which you don't.
Which I don't.
Which I loosely do because of how they change them. They change them at a certain point.
Yeah.
But it's like I barely know the uniforms. I'm like, wait, is that guy German?
Yeah. There was one
point.
He's
like, hello, good sir. Like he has. I'm not exaggerating any. He's like, hello, sirs. How's the war going? And it's like, he's wearing a German. Is he German? Is because he's wearing a German officer uniform.
Yeah, and then he explicitly does say that he's German, doesn't he? Like,
we're from the German. He actually says what unit they are. We're the German Jaegers, whatever the preface is. Yeah. I'm getting hot. Hot room we're in.
It does not explain anything.
It doesn't, and it expects you to follow with it.
Yeah, it's. I want to. This is kind of a knock on the DC animated movies.
Mm-hmm.
It acts a lot like that. It expects you to know the history,
the characters comic books,
already.
Yeah.
They expect you to know,
but they expect you to know.
As a fan, I love those movies.
Yeah, see, same, because we know what's happening in the DC movies.
We know exactly what's happening.
Oh, cool, Killer Croc. We know who Killer Croc is. Harley Quinn and Joker have been in relationships previously. That's why she mentioned Mr. J.
Yeah,
that's why she mentioned it. Nightwing and Harley Quinn have a thing going on. We know that's fine. We know who Batman's character is. That's fine. The war starts at the very beginning of this movie, and you're not going to expect me or you to know, I'm not exaggerating, 200 years of history leading up to World War I.
Exactly.
You're not going to expect us to know that, right?
Yeah, and they also treat the characters like they were that we already knew them beforehand.
And we didn't know the characters
beforehand. They were just made up for the movie.
Yeah, we don't know who this family is. We don't know who the characters are. But they expect us to know, very clearly that this character, he's immediately outwardly racist racist towards Italians.
Yeah.
But he calls them an Italian slur in English, which doesn't. So I was like, wait, is our main character English and the other people are Austrian, like in the family, or what? Because he's speaking. He's an English actor.
Yes,
he's speaking English.
He's in the Narnia movies. He's English.
What works with Joyeux Noel is that uniforms. You have the French, the Scottish, and you have the Germans.
Yeah,
and they are speaking French, Scottish, English, German. They're speaking the languages.
Yeah,
to each other, they're speaking the language that they don't know. Like the guy at one point in Joyeux Noel at the end, he says that your French is much better than my German. And he's a French guy talking to a German guy. Like that makes sense. But when you have two Austrian soldiers, like, damn shame that boyo, and it's like, okay.
it's especially jarring when remember the old man with the gun and got shot earlier?
Patch, yeah.
Yeah. He's he's talking to the main character. The
He's
main
making a
character
joke. Yeah.
is completely English, but then like the old
Okay, but
guy
he's
is
dubbed over.
completely dubbed over.
Yeah, so he's speaking German, Austrian, Hungarian. We don't
I
know,
don't
and he's
know.
dubbed over. He's dubbed over in English.
At least make
I
them
would
all English.
Make them all English actors, and then have the Italian actors not be Italian actors, or make them all their native actors, native speaking actors. Have all
Or
Austrian actors. They
even
did that
then-
with Joyeux Noel, and it
Yeah.
works beautifully. They have German actors. They have Scottish English actors. They have French actors, right?
Yeah.
But that setting does not leave the fucking trenches. It does not leave trenches. It does not leave that month or two. This one
the
is
entire-
spanning the
the
course of
entirety
a year and a
of-
half.
The entirety of
Oh, man.
Joyeux Noel. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it.
He's from the South.
I'm sorry. The only place we see is like a mansion that's like somewhere else. That's like
It's off in the distance. But they also establish how far away it is. He says
Yeah.
that his mother is only 100 kilometers away from here. And so,
Yeah.
like, going to see her would take an entire day or whatever.
yeah.
They explain that. They explain that a car will be here to pick you up in the morning, meaning that a car can come and get you, like, in a few hours' time, like, no problem. Whereas this one, we see the main character running from the Austrian defense post on the Dolomite Mountains.
I don't even know
running
like
back to the hotel.
yeah, and who knows like how high up
We don't
he
know how
is
far
or
away
how
that is.
low it is.
But at the very opening, before he goes off, he's like, if anything ever happens, this is the strongest firework we have. I will see it from the mountains. And I'm not going to find the foot. I don't feel like bothering with that. But I'm like, I have the book open, and I was like, excuse me now? And I'm like, I want to fucking see this happen. And we see it at the end of the movie. And the firework looks like it's a few miles away. Not even.
yeah, it's like a very clear firework. Like if it was across the field, you know.
Yeah, which I will say, having been at like New Year's celebrations or 4th of July celebrations in Panama City, you can see fireworks off the pier, which is like multiple miles away.
Yeah,
But that's on a flat like coastline beach.
yeah.
This is in
And
the fucking mountains.
And not only that,
Forest
he was
mountains.
in bed inside, and he
was
just
in the
happened to look.
infirmary, yeah.
He just happened to look out the door and see it.
Yeah. So he runs back in like the same day?
No, I think it was the morning after.
So he runs back the morning after to see his Italian friend execute, or not? Well, yeah, Italian. We'll say Italian friend. His
Yeah.
Italian friend executed.
He he
Austrians.
saves his Italian girl.
And
As
then they run away.
I think I said that she was his Italian piece of cheesecake.
Yeah, you
something.
just said that. My fine Italian cheesecake.
Yeah, something like that.
Ah, man, what a frustrating movie.
Yeah.
What an unnecessarily frustrating movie. I feel like they had a wonderful idea and wonderful things going for it, but it feels like the
Just
movie
better execution, please.
felt like it was building up to one thing with the main storyline, and the two side plots, one got halfway built up with the evil general, and the other one got built up all the way to where the guy got killed at the very end.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that second subplot only started like halfway.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything about it like at the beginning of the movie, or if we did, it was like a few scenes and we didn't even notice. What if like we missed one or two key scenes and that's why we hate the movie so much? I feel like
Maybe.
the 33 on Rotten Tomatoes and the 5.5 on IMDb says that we didn't miss anything,
Yeah,
and
I know.
it's just a movie thing.
I think it was just Oscar bait, Oscar porn, whatever you want to call it. They're
It very, very potentially could have been.
they're trying to like cater.
I didn't see it win any awards though. Is the thing.
Yeah, I know. They're trying to cater to like the most bougie of critics. Like they're trying.
Yeah.
The 5.5 is probably from people that just I don't know. They just thought, oh, it's a love story.
Yeah.
And also on IMDb, you can
But, like-
you can literally go and rate any movie you want without even having to see it. So
Yeah. All right. We're at 30 minutes sharp. Let's give us Bad Boy a score. Let's give The Silent Mountain 2014
you
a score.
go first this time.
For movies, it gets a 5 out of 10. The things that save it are executed beautifully. The things that don't save it, damn, they're bad.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the bad. For a war movie, 2 out of 10. while the costumes are accurate, here you go. Costumes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Costumes, weapons, and all that, wonderful, beautiful. Setting and location, wonderful, beautiful. That's all it's got going for it.
Yeah.
At one
I
point,
can see
there's a
that.
machine gun shooting, and there's a YouTube video that you can find, and I'm like, that sounds like a modern machine gun, not a machine gun 100 years ago.
Yeah, and
That's not what they sound
also
like.
lightning.
They wasn't like that.
The lightning
striking
strikes
the
it,
iron of a gun.
and it doesn't act like lightning. You see the lightning go up. You see his bones. It's like a fucking cartoon.
It looks like a
when
cartoon.
when the cartoon
What a bunch of
character.
clowns.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay, so saying that,
Yeah.
I give this as a movie a good 3. I did not enjoy this movie. I liked 1 or 2 roles,
Yeah. One or two
but
rolls, one or two
overall, I
parts.
was lost. I was angry. I was emotionally confused.
Yeah.
I didn't know who was doing what. At one point, I thought the guy raping the Italian girlfriend was the main character's dad.
Yeah.
But the main character's dad showed up on the battlefield later, and I'm like, what?
Wait a second. They
So-
look the exact same.
Yeah, I didn't know who was who. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And as a war movie, I gotta say 1.5. It's even worse for me.
1.5 out of 10.
Yeah, like it got
There's not much saving it,
they
honestly.
got the basic look down.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. But nothing else.
Is going for this movie.
There's
nothing else
nothing
going on
else.
for this film.
I
Don't. So,
This
would
is
we recommend
the-
it? No.
This
Save
is
your
the-
$5. Save your $5 to rent. They want me to buy it HD for $18.
Oh my gosh.
It's not. That $18 gonna be 18 burritos. That's not worth the $18. This is like a bargain bin Walmart of like a Blu-ray that you find for like $3.
Yeah,
This
I
is one of
don't.
those
Was
movies.
this released theatrically?
Yeah.
We're done. Next movie.
Next movie. Welcome back to our Veterans Day special. Where it's the same day for us, but it's been a few minutes for you guys.
Yeah.
The power of editing magic. Let's see, third Great War film that we've watched is 2013 Forbidden Ground.
Mm-hmm. It's the second best of the movies we've watched.
Well, today at least.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me go to the Wikipedia page for this bad boy. Alrighty, Forbidden Ground, also known as Battleground in the United States, is a 2013 Australian action drama film starring Johan Earl, Tim Pocock, and Martin Coping, set against the backdrop of World War I. It was directed by Johan Earl and Adrian Powers. Oh, that's interesting. He acted and directed. Let's see here. 94 minutes, not bad. I know that's nice for our time, for our time restraints. The budget was $1 million. We finally got a budget on some of these films. It was $1 million, and it was really good. Here's the plot. The film tells the story of 3 British soldiers during World War I on the Western Front in 1916. I'll get into that in just a second. During an aborted assault on the German trenches.
Nice choice of words.
Thank you. On the German trenches, the 3 become trapped in no man's land as night falls. One of the soldiers is seriously wounded and requires urgent medical attention. His right leg is gone from the knee down. No, it was above the knee. Right.
Yeah,
right
I
after,
think so.
Right before the knee started. Another soldier also knows that a massive artillery bombardment is due to begin soon, and saying where they are would result in certain death. The 3 begin a retreat back to the Allied trenches. Well, it would have been English trenches, pursued by the ever-watchful German soldiers who suspect that a major assault is imminent. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
During the journey, there are a number of flashbacks to England and the private lives of the soldiers, and these are discussed at various times. Along the way, there are also many obstacles. Well, a very basic way of putting it, I guess. All right, so let's do initial thoughts on the film, and then I'll get right into the historical part of it.
It's pretty good.
It was better than the last one. It was
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it
better
was
than
way
last
better than Silent Mountain.
I gotta say, I was very interested in the fiance. It was fiance, right?
Yeah. The subplot, yeah.
Yeah, the fiance subplot until like the actual abortion, because like She was told no by the doctor, saying it was dangerous. She was told by the nurse that it was dangerous, and the nurse wanted to take the baby home with her.
Yeah.
And she
the
still
nurse
went
willingly
through it.
wanted to take the baby. If she had the baby, she wanted to take it.
She
would have taken it off of her hands.
It was so stupid. It was so stupid that she went through it.
And then in the end, she died.
Yeah.
So,
that's my only like big issue with the film.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that. It's like the answer could have obviously been simple. It's
Yeah,
like,
but
don't
she-
have an abortion. I feel like, but she's like, my mind is made up. I'm like, okay, well,
Fucking bitch.
yeah, that doesn't make. Why would you not just do the thing that makes the most sense? I feel like the one that
she said
because it said
something
controversial
about like
surgery.
yeah, and also she said something about like she didn't want to be shamed like your sister. Well, bitch,
Her sister's still alive and she isn't. So,
sister's still alive. Yes, shamed. Yes,
but alive nonetheless. Whereas she is dead.
the two sisters still talk. They still love each other.
Yeah, it's like more of a social like being shamed.
Yeah,
Whereas
well,
this
she
one
was
is a social.
the
she's
sister
fucking
was
dead.
disowned by their parents.
But I mean, even then, she's alive, right?
Yeah, and even then, she didn't even have to tell any of the family. She could have just like laid low for a bit.
I feel. I mean, I guess.
Said that she moved away, but like stays like in the home.
Yeah.
You know, just like
Perhaps.
it just
the subplot we could know without it. It was nice. It was a nice break from the very intense action because the action would have only been like an hour long, hour 10 perhaps. 94 minutes would
with
put us at
that-
an hour and a half. So
with that second plot thread, it just kind
the
of
subplot.
Yeah.
So it was a nice break, but the actual break itself was like you could have done this a different way. I thought the twist at the very end was very interesting to where it was the guy that was in the trenches with our main character.
yeah.
His wife is the one that was performing the abortion
Yeah,
on his wife.
His wife was
A
nurse.
very interesting like circle happening there.
Yeah. The man that lost his leg, his wife was the nurse for the other man's wife who was helping. Yeah. It just came full
It
circle.
was very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't expect that, but
I didn't either.
because
I was like,
very
why
much
is she there in
feels
prison?
like to me it very much feels like the
Very convenient.
very convenient,
convenient,
like
and also,
like the
like,
Star
they
the
couldn't
Star
find-
Wars thing where everyone's related, you know.
And like they couldn't find another female actor to play the guy's wife, maybe, or if like they
Maybe.
did, that seemed like a very weird subplot, somewhat.
Yeah. I feel like they could have found another.
They could have just made this
actor.
a nice 1 hour 10 and focused on other stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Not that the film doesn't have merit though.
The film, I like the movie.
Yeah.
I like the movie.
It's
I
just that
will
one
say
part that.
just that one part that's like interlaced throughout the rest of the things. Like it's you have the main story and then you have subplot and the main story for a little bit and the subplot and main story and subplot.
Fucking love that scene where
And then at the end
it's the
subplot-
dream
sub-
sequence at the beginning.
The dream sequence was hilarious.
He sees the potential child. This is the wife that's having the dream.
Yeah.
And she's already had the baby.
Yeah.
And he's like, just tell me it's not yours. And she doesn't say anything. And he starts to walk away and she like pleads with him and he turns around
And
like,
hits her.
bitch slaps her.
The bitch slap wakes her up and she's like oh goodness, and then feels her stomach and me and Trevor are like, oh fuck. So that's where this
Yeah.
is going, huh?
Yeah.
But it turns out at the very end that he says that like even though she would have had an illegitimate child, which I hate the phrase, he still would have loved her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like she died for nothing. she left this poor man alone, and now this other woman that performed the abortion is in prison now.
Yep.
So
I wish things worked out better for her, honestly.
yeah, it is interesting to see that nothing good worked out for any of the characters at all.
Yeah.
Considering all the last ones, we have seen them work out more or less for the characters. Not Breaker Morant and not Joyeux Noel, really.
Yeah.
But Zulu, you see the things kind of work out well, somewhat.
For the main character.
Yeah, and then the Silent Mountain, they worked out well for the two main characters.
Lord.
Although it was pretty dumb. But yeah, with Rick and Morant, didn't work out well for the main characters, and then for Joyeux Noel, it didn't work out so well for them either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all alive, but like it was
Yeah.
like. But for this one, that didn't work out well, which is nice to see that that every once in a while it not work out with the Hollywood ending. But I will have to say, now that's our thoughts on the movie. This says this takes place during the Western Front, which would have been France in 1916.
Yes.
I have to say the historical accuracy and the accuracy of history in this film, much like the last one, runs fast and runs loose with the accuracies. They overall get things accurate, but when it comes down to the real details that sell the film, they miss out on a few things. One of them being, if it's 1916, the German stormtroopers would not have had uniforms that looked like that. They would have been to the traditional uniforms still, even though they had helmets and all that. So it seems like that kind of wasn't their main focus. It seems like the enemy was not the main focus. It was the main focus of the five main characters.
Yeah, the main focus was trying to get the main characters back to the trenches.
Yeah,
for the most part.
The main story focus was of the five characters. The two women, and then the three soldiers.
The three men.
And then
one boy
who
died for nothing.
Yeah, he ran back. He was running back to the trenches, and then we think the officer is being cold-hearted and cruel or whatever. But it turns out they had a front trench laced with explosives for the Germans if they decided to.
I don't know why anyone else in the trench didn't know that. Did he not tell? This is a Last Jedi problem.
It is a Last Jedi problem.
You tell your
team
soldiers
what's happening,
what's going on. If that kid knew what the plan was,
which makes me think it was an afterthought. Like it's a very afterthought plan. Like they abandoned the front trench to fall back and have that trench as a buffer if the Germans attacked. The Germans did mustard gas and they did attack. They did not. Well, this is like late war tactics, I have to say. Yeah. But they did not do a creeping barrage with stormtroopers, which is what they would have done. But it's 1916, so they don't really have tangible or viable stormtrooper tactics, even though very clearly in the film we see specialized German infantry and specialized stormtrooper units. They're not doing any of the original tactics either. Like they're just doing very baseline tactics. It seems like the Germans in this film are portrayed very poorly, I have to say. The movie's good and I like it, but they demonize the German portrayal. They show them off as
Germans bad.
They show them as World War II Germans, which not to say that the Germans in World War II were evil, but it's tradition
not all of
Western
them were evil.
It's a tradition in Western films to show the Germans as being Hitler. All of them as being Hitler.
All of them
to an extent.
Hitler.
To an extent.
All of them hate Jews. All of them
hate America and are evil. All of them have a constant sour frown and sour look. Some of them have face scars, and some of them talk very angrily in very short bursts.
Yeah. I mean, for some movies, it works.
Some
movies it works. Indiana Jones, it works. Some other media,
heightened,
some other media it works, like Wolfenstein. But again, it's heightened media.
Yeah, this has, and I think it's fair to say what the Wikipedia article also said, is a backdrop World War I film. They did this with the last one. They did not do it with Joyeux Noel. Yeah, this one was not an anti-war film.
And it wasn't pro-war either.
It wasn't pro-war either, but it was very pro our protagonists. Yeah. So for this side, the English, but they counterbalance. I'm not giving them any credit, but I'm saying that they counterbalance it by showing the English officer as being an asshole also. Yeah. But to a lesser extent, an asshole. He's an asshole with a good reason that we find out whenever the explosives go off. They set up a trench explosives, a trench solely for the purpose of being a trap. Wonderful idea, and that was real. Although I wouldn't say it wouldn't be the entire fucking trench, or an entire front trench line system, but it was still, they would do that. So I'm very glad that I have this book right here. The English uniforms were accurate. I don't know why there was an Irishman inside of an English unit.
I'm Irish. I'm Irish. Yeah, keep yelling that.
Keep yelling it. It's not going to help you anyway. So I don't know why they would have an Irishman with English. Unless I'm missing out on something, they would usually Irish segment, Scottish segment, English segment.
Maybe there is some people like count this as Irish, and some people count this area as
I think this would have been around that time,
as British. Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Like I know that there's like
I might be wrong.
there's
but
like
I'm pretty
a
sure that
slight divide in like I guess Ireland. I guess like there's
there's
like
the
English.
country Ireland, and then there's the part of England Ireland, and I'm sure that's not. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like not 100% accurate, but
Mhm.
there are two very distinct Irish. There's UK Irish and there's country Irish.
Yeah.
Irish Republic. My apologize. I don't know exactly it.
Yeah,
but they
me
would.
neither.
I don't believe they would have been.
They might not
They might not have been
identified.
inside the English rankings because the
Mm.
Scottish have their own. The Highlanders
Yeah.
have their own very clear uniform, and then like you have the different segments. So I really don't. Unless I'm missing something. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Maybe he was just in England whenever the war started or whatever.
Well,
Or somehow-
even then, it was based off of where you were from.
Oh, okay.
So if I lived in England, I am from America. I would be sent to an American thing to do an American unit. I would be in an American unit, even though I lived in England all my life. I was born in America. I speak American English. I'm with an American unit.
Okay.
That's that. If he was Irish and he's born in Ireland or the English part of Ireland, which at this time would have been that, then he would have been with an Irish unit. There's another short film on YouTube. I don't remember what it's called. It is about an Irish unit, and they have an English officer as a tradition. You always got to have your English officers. Can't have independents. And the English soldier has shell shock, and his entire like unit that has shell shock and wouldn't obey orders was executed, a la Breaker Morant, for disobeying orders. So it is interesting to have him in that, but I think it's more of the filmmakers decide to have some accent diversity, which I'll get into that right now. This is an Australian film, and the accents were good, but they were hit or miss.
Yeah.
I guess they never miss, huh? But like, they could have done. I feel like they easily could have just done a 1918 setting, and then they could have done American accents because there were 2 or 3 guys that had like no noticeable accent, and I would not have guessed that they were Australian. Their accents were good, but like for a film like this, convincingly good, but not like if they had a higher budget or if the film was different, it would not have been a convincingly good accent. It would have been like, well, the accent really doesn't make any sense because in the main character's monologue, he doesn't have really a particularly noticeable accent, but when he's talking on screen, like you see him doing dialogue and talking or monologue and talking, it's like he has a British accent. So somewhat hit or miss. Like I said, they could have easily just done a different backdrop, or not a different backdrop, a different like time period setting. Like they could have done late war American guys.
Yeah.
So that is another
I can
one.
see that.
My least favorite part of the film, of course, is the demonization of the German infantry.
Yeah.
Even though the Strauss troops, the stormtroopers, were supposed to be, even on the German side, they said that they wanted people who were less than human, people that would have no hesitation to kill the enemy under any circumstance. That was the whole point of the stormtroopers.
The Death Troopers from Rogue One.
Pretty much, yeah. Like they wanted them to be fast, effective, and would kill the enemy under for any reason.
Like their
under any
version of
circumstance.
Suicide Squad.
But
I have so many pop culture references. I'm sorry.
It's all right. But like the uniforms don't match because some of them are wearing infantry uniforms and some of them are wearing stormtrooper uniforms. The infantry uniforms, 1915, 16, 17, 18, were good and they made sense. But the stormtrooper uniforms that were in this film, I am almost positive, would not have been around until mid 17 to 18. They all had the same. The rifles were very accurate, except for the English, wherever they had the SMLEs. And I showed you a video about this. The SMLE speed reload. The English would constantly take their rifle off the shoulder to reload it, and there's no need. The SMLE is built to keep it on your shoulder, fire, and then keep
doing it.
Keep cycling the bolt. So I don't know why they would have done that one. So like I said with the last one, they run fast and they run loose with the historical accuracies. You could call it nitpicking. Yeah. But I feel like that's like my thing. That's like
it just depends.
It's what I do.
It depends on the type of movie where that would be a problem.
Yeah, and this is not that. The film does what it wants to do, with the historical accuracies and inaccuracies in hand.
Yeah.
It still portrays the story of family being away from family and the story of these three guys that are in dire straits.
Yeah.
And need to get back to the trenches.
See,
that's what this movie does, and it does that.
Merry Christmas would have it probably would have really stood out and really would have been
absolutely.
It definitely would have held the movie back if it had any
crazy noticeable inaccuracies.
Yeah, just like that or the last movie.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Well, the last one had some, and we covered them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It still told the story that it wanted to. I feel like if you're doing an anti-war film, you have to get you have to dot your I's and cross your T's like very, very closely.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're gonna like degrade from it somewhat. Not to say this one gets a pass for it, but I would say it's noticeable. But that's not what the movie is here for. The movie is here to tell its story, which is a pretty run-of-the-mill story.
Yeah.
But it's good. I felt with the characters. When the guy had to get the new tourniquet on his leg,
Ooh.
I was like, ooh. I feel that one. I feel that one. That fucking hurts.
And the whenever
that shit hurts.
Whenever the stormtrooper decided to like hit
his leg to see if he was
hit the
alive.
butt of the gun to the leg, and the man just let out this terrifying shriek.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're both gonna die now.
Yeah, I felt that shit. So, it was good.
Yeah.
Would you like to give it a score, Mr. Trevor? Mr. Boy.
Over a movie,
For a
good,
movie, yeah.
good 7.5.
Yeah.
To well executed movie, doesn't break any new boundaries or anything, but very well executed.
Mm-hmm.
War movie, gotta give it like a 4 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's not wanting to be a war centered movie. It's got war movie elements,
And
but
has
it's
the
not
backdrop of the Great War. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily a war movie.
Yeah. I agree with you. I would say for movie, I'd say it's a very strong 6 out of 10. Anything lower than that, I'd say would be insulting to the film and to the filmmakers. But it's not a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a very strong 6 out of 10. And I say for war movies, it's another 6 out of 10. Not a strong one, but it's a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Not the worst that we've seen. Certainly not the worst that we've seen.
Oh Lord.
even the old ass Zulu movie that like is just doing its own damn thing was better than
whatever
some that we've seen. Silent Mountain was whatever Quiet Hill was. So yeah, six
Hill.
out of 10 for both, but a strong 6 out of 10 for the film. For movie, war movie, a 6 out of 10 just because it's good, but it's not the focus of the film.
Silent Mountain, Silent Hill.
Anything else you'd like to add before we watch the next one?
Nope.
All right, good.
I can't think of anything.
Let's see. So we did 1914. We've done 1915. We did 1916. So I wonder which one's next. Ooh. Let's figure this bad boy out. All right. We're recording.
Cool.
Welcome back, everybody, to our Veterans Day special. We're going to hop right into it because we just finished the movie.
Yeah.
We watched 2015
Yeah,
Battalion?
2015 Battalion.
Not the 2018 Battalion that's supposed to be trash and garbage, and I don't want to watch it.
This Battalion was about a Russian women's battalion.
The very first one.
The very first one.
Yes, let me gather the
in
Wikipedia article.
1914, right?
Well, the movie they formed them in 1917, right before the
1917. Okay.
the Russian Revolution.
Gotcha. In fact, that it happens at the very end of this movie, doesn't it?
They explain so a couple times they mention that like it's happening. It just happened. They don't really give like solid dates or anything.
Yeah.
But we have real solid dates. We have solid dates, and we have so the Russians did not use the Gregorian calendar until like after.
Yeah.
So we have like Julian calendar dates. So for them it was February, when for us it was March. And same thing.
Gotcha.
They called it the October Revolution. It was really the November Revolution because it happened a month in our calendar afterwards.
Yeah.
Let me find the movies. Battalion 2015, the Wikipedia article, just so I can give a better description of the film.
Yeah. But
let's see here.
For the most part, it was
good. It was a good movie.
It was a good
Okay,
movie.
here we go. Battalion. In Russian, it's Battalion.
I know.
Is a 2015 Russian film directed by Dmitry. I gotta switch my gears to Russian now. I was doing German and Austrian and stuff just fine, then English, and now I gotta switch back to German, or I gotta switch to Russian.
Changing gears.
It's like swapping gears in a car. It's like swapping gearboxes in a car. Like you go from manual to automatic, and then like to to straight automatic, and then and then to a rotary engine.
Then all of a sudden you're in a fucking train. Like what?
Yeah, you like you have to operate an actual tank with like 2 sticks and like 4 pedals. Anyway, Battalion is a 2015 Russian war film directed by Dmitry Meskiev that relates the story of the 1st Battalion of Death, a women-only Russian combat unit that fought in the First World War. Actress Maria Aronova plays the role of real-life heroine Maria Bochkareва.
And this is the woman like in charge, right?
Yes, yeah.
Hero,
Battalion
we'll
was the
get
biggest
into that.
winner at the 2015 Golden Eagle Awards, winning 4 awards out of 9 nominations. Let's see. Cinematography by Ilya Averbach. Release date February 2015, 20 in Russia. 120 minutes, so like 2 hours even.
Mm-hmm.
10 million budget. Yeah, not bad. The music was good when we did hear it.
Yeah.
I do love at the very beginning of this, we were like, we pressed play and like it had all the credits in English, like the opening like credits and shit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wait, does this have a dub or does this have a subtitle or not? And so like we had to wait for like 3 minutes for dialogue to happen, and it did, or it said in Russian, St. Petersburg 1917, and then it had it next to it in English, St. Petersburg 1917.
So
and I was like,
it was a sigh of relief.
Yeah, because if we didn't, then we wouldn't have watched a 3rd movie today. We'd be like, all right, well, it's gonna take forever to find another one.
Yeah.
So, a longer version of the film, split into 4 episodes, was shown on television in March 2016. Interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Plot of the film: in the spring of 1917, following the February Revolution, and for us it'd be March, Russian troops fighting in the First World War are heavily demoralized. Military commanders decided to create a battalion of enthusiastic women volunteers led by Maria Bochkareва. After basic military training, the women are sent to the front. That's the plot of the film. So let's talk about the film, and to do something different. How well do you remember the movie so far? Pretty damn well.
Oh yeah, I remember it.
So if you don't mind, go through the plot of the film, start to finish, or beginning to end, and then I'll follow the real history next to it.
Okay, so it starts off with like just Russia is kind of like in a bad state right now, basically. And then it opens with one of our main characters, Nadia, finding out that her fiance was killed.
Yeah.
And so after she gets the news, literally like a few seconds after, her friend comes in and says, "Don't worry, I'll get revenge for you. I'm going to go fight in the war." And her and her maid or nanny or something,
follower, I don't know, caretaker, she was hired by her mom to like make sure she'd be all right.
Yeah.
But
so,
like they're the same age, I think.
They're roughly the same age, I
roughly
think.
the same age. So
she might be a maid then.
Maybe, yeah. So this would have been May 1917.
Okay.
Maria Bochkareва, a peasant woman who had served in the Russian army since November 1914 and had risen to the rank of non-commissioned officer, petitioned the government to establish a battalion of female soldiers under her command. At the end of May, the Minister of War of the Russian Provisional Government, Alexander Kerensky, authorized the formation of the 1st Russian Women's Battalion of Death in Petrograd. The first all-female combat unit initially attracted over 2,000 enlistees, which we really didn't see.
We saw a lot of women.
We saw a lot of women being lined up, but like
and
obviously we didn't see
that was just in one part, though.
Yeah, that was just the very beginning.
Well, what I meant was like that was just in like one building that we saw. There was probably a few other.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
Because she personally saw the 1st battalion like being made and all that.
Oh, okay. I get it.
Oh, excuse me. Oh goodness, we had Taco Bell 2 hours ago. I had Taco Bell and you had
I
You had
hopes.
a ghost pepper sandwich.
Yeah.
Dude, that sounded really good.
It was good.
The first all-female combat unit initially attracted over 2,000 enlistees between the ages of 18 and 40. Very high range.
Yeah.
But Bolshevikova's strict discipline and refusal to allow the formation of soldiers' committees soon drove out all but about 300 volunteers. So, continue.
Okay, so the three go off and they enlist, and we see a few other characters enlist as well in the same line. We get to know one woman.
Are you talking about the big woman?
The big
She was
woman.
my favorite,
I
dude.
love her.
She was my favorite because the man who was there, like writing down the enlistees, the names, and making sure they're physically fit or whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, we can't let you in. Like you were rejected. And then the woman saying next to her in the other line, like,
Isn't
being
it
signed up.
obvious? You're fat.
Yeah, and she's like, is it because I'm fat? And then she walks off to like a fireplace, grabs one of those iron poker bars, and fucking just bends it in half. And then like we're both like,
Too fat.
Я толстый. 26 лет.
Есть.
Ну-ка, ваши брать.
It's really fucking funny, dude.
Толста, да? Да я не толста.
I wish you ripped off her fucking clothes and then like it's all
Я
messy.
здоров!
Holy shit, dude. That's fucking solid ass iron, dude. Holy shit. Holy fuck, dude. That's so cool. I'm sure that never fucking happened. But like that shit's still tight.
Yeah.
I'm fat because I'm strong as fuck, pussy boy. Me and you were just like gobsmacked, dude. And then she throws it off to the side, and it's like a real bent iron bar. And they sound so loud on wood floors too. So it was so loud.
Ka-donk.
Yeah.
It was a great scene.
And then this in the movie. That's where we first see Maria, because she's like, "Did you come here to break my stuff?" And she's like, "No, I came here to fight." And she's like, "You're my second lieutenant."
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah. You are in, bitch.
You're in, bitch. It was really,
So-
really funny.
Yeah, and so like the team comes together, whole Avengers moment, okay?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and we go through like their training. It's not pretty at first, but you know, you see
They're all,
them.
yeah. Well, I feel like to an
they're
extent.
pretty, but
nice.
Nice.
To an extent, I feel like with any untrained or like freshly new recruit, you're gonna have a bunch of rough edges. Good potential, but like a lot of rough edges.
Yeah.
So I feel like it being women is like not cementing anything, but it shows that they are like not at all ready for anything.
Yeah. I did forget to mention one character. It was an officer's daughter. Was he an officer or something?
I think
don't
he's
know.
a general or something.
General. He is ranked in the military.
Yeah. He's an officer.
Yeah. So his daughter enlists as well.
Yeah.
And she is a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
She's a sharpshooter.
She's like exceptionally good at shooting.
Yeah. But later on in the movie, we find out that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
After
So she is not in.
after
anymore.
standing up for her battalion, after Maria was
Arrested for
Which punching one of the.
I don't know if that's like 100% accurate, but there was like, I mean, it did just say it's like she refused the formation of soldiers' committees. So that's why there was like only 300 volunteers out of all 2,000 that enlisted initially. There's only like 300 left.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the in between stuff you can pretty much like guess and just gather what happened, because on the article here it goes like directly into the first battle that they were in. So it's like enlistment and then recruitment, training, and then it goes right into the first battle.
There's a few hiccups along the way.
Well, we don't see really any real combat stuff until like the first. So the movie's 2 hours long.
What I'm saying is like the hiccups, like getting them to the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned,
Polishing the rough edges.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, there was the woman that was pregnant. She was the second lieutenant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. She was made second lieutenant after she stood up for herself or something like that.
Yeah. But find out she's pregnant, Maria just tells her to go home, protect the baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which
Maria.
it's very heartbreaking.
It is
to
because
just
she's
see.
like she's a badass bitch, and she's like
Yes,
ready to go fight.
And if you want, you can cut to it. But I'm doing it now too. If you want, you can.
Yeah.
But I said, oh well, this is going to end badly for her. She's not cut for war, but she almost was. If it wasn't for the baby,
yeah,
she would have been like a great addition to the team. You know.
Yeah.
Which it's super sad to see that happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's really it. Well, Nadia finds her dead boyfriend.
Her dead fiance before they hop on the train to go to.
Yeah.
We find out where it is. I mean, the real battle was the Kaninsky offensive. So.
So they go off to war, and then on their way to like hiking to the base, they stop, take a break. They splash around in the water.
It turns into the beach episode of an anime for like 5 minutes,
but a lot less like boobs bouncing, just more like girls having fun.
Yeah.
Than it is like boobs bouncing. And all of a sudden we see like another just
a ginormous group of like men just run after them.
We can't really see
their uniform. Yeah.
Well, we can see their uniforms.
Well,
but
whenever I saw them running, I was like, "Are these Russians like deserting from a battle that had just happened or some shit? What's happening here?"
Yeah.
And then
they're running down the trail, and then Maria yells, "Take arms!"
and
And
then they all line up with their bayonets affixed and everything, like ready to shoot.
Oh Lord!
It's really intense.
Yeah,
it's a very very tense
it's
thing.
Like it's a standoff.
It is
it's
a standoff.
Mexican standoff, basically.
In Russia.
Yeah,
it is 100% a standoff between this we find out this unit of drunken bandits, criminals.
Yeah.
That were the soldiers that were up there that are like just like disbanded at this point.
Yeah.
And how the women are the ones that are actually going to go fight and go protect the lines.
Yeah, so they're demasculinizing. Is that a word? I don't know.
No idea.
They demoralize the men.
They pretty much just
probably
like
in their head is what I'm saying. Like
probably. I mean,
they
do
mind.
100% just like show them up as this is what soldiers look like, and we just started. So.
Yeah. Which that good for them, honestly.
Yeah.
Like good for them. Shame on the men.
Yeah, for real.
Like if you don't want to be shown up by a woman, just do your damn job.
Honestly, for them at least.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's ridiculous. I'm reading the article again. It's like it's absurd, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. So they had gone. So those soldiers were. Let's see here. It is the Kerensky Offensive, which was part of the Eastern Front during World War I, which happened between July 1st and July 19th. So it's around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's just straight from the article. Discipline within the Russian army had reached a point of crisis since the Tsar's abdication. The Petrograd's Soviets Order Number 1 tremendously weakened the power of officers, giving an overriding mandate to soldier committees. So it's like, and I think work unions are great; they're very important.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be like the same thing, where it's like a boss is the overseeing of everyone in the factory or whatever, and then you have a union undermine your entire authoritarian style control.
Yeah.
For a military, I think it's better to have an officer that's commanding an entire one section of the thing. But because they had Petrograd Soviets, Order Number 1, it like would give no power to officers at all,
Mm-hmm.
which we see like multiple times in the movie. We see it like midway. We see it close to the end, like twice, 2 or 3 times. The abolition of the death penalty was another contributing factor, as was the high presence of revolutionary agitators at the front, including Bolshevik agitators who promoted a defeatist agenda and whom Kerensky tolerated considerably more than conservative agitators. Riots and mutineering at the front became common. Officers were often the victims of soldier harassment and even murder. Furthermore, the policy of the new government towards the war effort was one of fulfilling obligations towards Russia's allies, as opposed to fighting for the sake of total victory, thus giving soldiers a less credible motivation to fight. So they were fighting at this point for out of obligation. They weren't fighting to win a war. They weren't fighting for 100% of victory. And this is what Vladimir Lenin, the Marxism-Lenin idea was that Russia belongs to all of us, not some bigwigs that say we have to go. Excuse me. Not one that is of the monarchs. And the monarchs were the ones who made everyone obligated to fight. So that's why there was a huge revolution. And at this point, 3 years into the war, the Russian people were over fighting. They were done.
Yeah. Which I can get.
Yeah.
I can get why that happened and why they wanted to change.
So we see the women go to the front lines, and the movie at this point takes creative liberties. It doesn't fly fast and loose with historical accuracies. It does to an extent, but at the very end, we were so angry.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to the end. The end bit's the end argument or the end thing's going to be like, I can't believe this happened. So, called into action against the Germans during the Kerensky offensive, the first Russian Women's Battalion of Death were assigned to the 525th. Oh no, Kiryuk Darinsky Regiment and occupied a trench near Smorgon. Ordered to go over the top, the soldiers of the war-weary men's battalion hesitated. We don't see that in the movie. We see the women are the only ones there. The women, however, decided to go up with or without them, which we kind of see. Yeah. Eventually, they pushed past 3 trenches in German territory, which we don't really see.
We don't see that, but we do see them take a trench.
Yeah.
We see them get back a little bit of land.
Where soldiers discovered a stash of vodka, which the women tried to break before they could be drunk. So, in his report, the commander of the regiment praised the women battalion's initiative and courage. However, relief units never arrived, and they were eventually forced to retreat, losing all of the ground gained in the offensive. The 1st Russian Women's Battalion of Death, commanded by Bochkaryeva, was still at the front after the revolution, but disbanded shortly after as a result of increasing hostility from male troops who wanted an end to the war and resented female volunteers for prolonging it. So, there was a 1st Petrograd Women's Battalion. You had the 1st Women's Battalion of Death, 2nd Moscow Women's Battalion of Death, 3rd Kuban Women's Shock Battalion. So you had like 4 or 5 different women battalions. Yeah. That were trying. The whole point was for them was to liven up and get people invigorated about fighting the war. Yeah. Pretty much a ploy by the monarchs to like, hey, the war is a good thing. Here's women to prove it. But they didn't read the room correctly, and so everyone was done with the war. Okay. Anything else? The movie is good. Characters are wonderful.
What I was going to say was like we see them go to the front line. There's some sexist pigs. They capture a couple spies.
They capture 2 spies trying to be nice to them.
And then one of the spies kills one of the first casualty that we see
is from
a prisoner spy.
So in the movie, at least, the women being underprepared is a common theme. Yeah. Which I feel like, according to history,
it's not very
accurate.
They seem
the women were more prepared.
Real badass women.
In history, yes. The ones that saw combat.
Then, some of the ones we saw.
And the ones that we saw, they got there. And that's fine. But whenever the women went to go fight, they were the only ones ready to fight at the front lines. So
they were cold ass bitches.
For real, yeah. So, while the movie is good, and it won a bunch of awards, turn off my voting thing. Hey, good movie. We did a great job. It's I'm getting fired up again. It's not 100% historically accurate, and I feel like it is disingenuous to the real women who were the last ones fighting for a cause that I personally don't believe in. But they're the only ones that still fought for what they believed in. Yeah. I respect that while I disagree with it.
Gotcha.
I think that's fair to say. I am not pro-Soviet and not pro-Bolshevik. That's dumb. To no longer support your government. I can see revolution being the way to do it, and that's what happened. But like, could there have been a better way of going about it? Sure.
Maybe.
Not during a world war.
Yeah.
There was no way you could have gotten around that.
Let's not do this when everyone is fighting each other.
It's like
please.
there's a family argument going on between every part of the family during Thanksgiving, and like announcing that you're pregnant, and it's like, you could have done this after or before, right?
Yeah.
You and your girlfriend, you're not married, did not have to announce that you're pregnant during the Thanksgiving argument. You could have waited until after. You could have waited way after. You could have done this.
Waited till Christmas.
You could have waited till Christmas. That's what the real situation was. And this movie, we didn't even find out that the Tsar's been overthrown until 3/4 of the movie in.
Yeah, well,
I know it. You know it.
I think it's because we get the news as the battalion gets the news.
I feel like they would have already known what was happening, though.
Eh.
Maybe. Well, if this is the February Revolution. Well, yeah, no, it was in March, so it would have been May for them. So
Yeah.
they would have known a few months that things were happening.
Mm.
So yeah. So, do you have anything else you want to add about the movie before we get into the big until we get into the big discussion?
The greatest shot in Russian film history. Haven't seen another Russian film, by the way.
Like any other movie, really.
The stupid, or not the stupid, but the really big. Just they set fire to their trench.
They set they get hay and kerosene and set fire to the trench they were in before.
75% of the way to the German trench.
Yes, by sneaking
set
up.
fire to their trench, rise up like demons from hell, and
then
just
charge at 'em, dude.
in.
It is
and they win.
badass. It is
It is
badass.
the best scene in the movie.
It really is.
Woo.
The movie has a handful of like wonderful scenes, and I gotta start calming down. And the movie overall is a great film if you don't know anything about history. Yeah. But Trevor, it brings us to the end of the movie. At this point, I've been reading and re-catching up because whenever the actual revolution was happening earlier this year, 100 years ago, I was following it. And I was like, man, this shit's wild. And I was like reading past the book and like really, really reading into it. The historical accuracies, the costumes, uniforms, locations,
Accurate.
99.9, wonderful. People's accents and the way they talked, very good. I think I would have noticed if I don't know that much Russian. I know an equal amount of Russian and Japanese and German. So it's like
I know nothing.
Well, I pick up on languages fast. The way they sound, at least.
Yeah.
So I think I would have noticed if like they were speaking differently than they would have. Maybe they were, but that's not like the thing. Yeah. But what I love is that we watched Last Resort. What was it? Silent Mountain.
Oh yeah.
And like the languages is like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
But this one we understand immediately. Like I see the German uniforms.
They speak German.
And they speak German. We see the Russian women. They speak Russian.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a problem. All right, Trevor. We're at 24 minutes. I'm getting pumped. Guys, welcome back to the video. So the movie ends with the Russian Women's Battalion getting
backup.
They're getting no. They're heading to the trenches.
Yeah.
They are in the trenches and they just got done taking it. They are being sneak attacked by a German not invasion, but like a German attack. Like they're being sneaked up, being snuck up on.
Oh Lord!
And so they take a lot of casualties. Didn't happen, by the way. That part didn't happen.
Yeah.
They were sneaked up on, and then they took a lot of casualties. The Germans were taking from both sides. And then all the women are like, well, this is the end. This is the end. Like they start talking to each other, saying prayers or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in the distance marching, you hear who we've seen 3 times in the movie at this point. The drunken bastards, the bandits, the thieves, the criminals. The men that did not want to fight in history and in the movie. You see them being filled with inspiration from the officers from the higher command. My heart's racing right now, Trevor. And you see them running towards the battle to support these women. None of this ever happened, and it delegitimizes the entire fucking point of the movie. To where you see the battalion of people who did not want to fight historically and in the movie. You see them run up full of vigor and energy, ready to fight and help the women. Never happened. At no
Also,
point this ever happened.
There wasn't a scene in between whenever the officers were like, okay, we're going to go help.
Yeah.
There was no scene in between the officers leaving their office position behind, going to help, and like the other troops following suit. Like,
so it's a
even
surprise.
That, even as a movie, the scene doesn't work.
The best kind of prize is a surprise, except for when it shits in your cereal. Oh, Trevor's out of here. So, we see that happen, and then we can cut to that footage right fucking now. Not accurate. If what's happening happens.
Not accurate.
Not accurate. Hey. Yeah, well, they just completely delegitimize the entire fucking movie then. If that's the case. You're about 30 years too early, my man. 25 years too early.
They can't make Russia look bad, though.
I guess.
This is a Russian-made movie. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's the real footage.
Yeah.
Man, this movie had everything going for it.
This was a Russian film after all, and you know how the government doesn't like anything that.
Yeah, good. And I can't wait to fucking talk about this, dude.
Training camp was.
Continue. Go on. And
Oh, is that the actual?
that's the actual woman. She looks fucking just like her, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, the next part is the next part after that. So you see her. You see a picture of her, and it says that she continued training and making women battalions until 1920. They had a real picture, and then it goes to the credits. Trevor, do you know why she stopped in 1920?
Yes, because you told me.
In 1920. Okay, here you go. Here's from the article. Bochkareva arrived in, oh lord, I have a really big Russian name.
Oh no.
Arkhangelsk in August 1918 and attempted to organize another unit. This would have been like close to the end of the war.
Yeah.
But failed. In April 1919, she returned to Tomsk and attempted to form a women's medical detachment under White Army Admiral Alexander Kolchak. But before she could complete the task, she was recaptured by the Bolsheviks, the Soviets, the Red Army.
Oh no.
She was sent to Krasnoyarsk, where she was interrogated for 4 months. The war ended 2 months, August, September, October, November. The war ended in November. She was interrogated until December. Ultimately, against Vladimir Lenin's orders, she was sentenced to death and executed as an enemy of the working class. She was shot by the Cheka on May 16, 1920. The movie does not elaborate.
It doesn't.
The movie does not continue to say that. So, the ending of this movie delegitimizes the historical events and the things that we see happen in the film.
Yes.
And my blood is boiling right now.
And I gotta say, my theory is that I hate to be this guy, but like those damn Russians, but like the Russian government does not like the idea.
History thrown back at them.
Yeah, they don't like
No
it.
one really does, I will say.
And To be
we see
fair-
this. The same thing happened in Zulu,
Yeah, I was
where
about
it's
to
like
say that.
they
Yeah.
legitimized the invasion by not by showing them as getting along with the Zulu at the very end. They legitimized their blood diamond attempt.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in here. And I don't see anybody like being upset about this or anything. So it's just me and you, Trevor.
I don't know.
We had a great thing going. The movie was great up until like that last 5 minutes.
Yeah. So
I'm so upset.
So you want to just?
This was going to be the best movie we saw so far.
I know.
The next one we're going to see is going to be the best one, though. I'm very excited for it. The next two, at least.
Yeah.
So, good Lord, we've watched
So
4 World War
let's,
One movies.
Let's get into the ranking, or not ranking, but the 5 out of 10, or not 5 out of 10. What's the score you give it out of 10? I can't talk. I'm tired.
For movie-wise, I give the movie, if you're ignoring everything else, the movie
just
gets a
based on-
7 out of 10. It's such a good film. 2 hours, that's split up perfectly. Training is 1 hour. Battle is 1 hour. The ending, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. The story is great. The characters and acting is wonderful. You feel with this battalion.
Mm-hmm.
For historical movie,
Ooh.
while it gets the uniforms correct, the setting location correct, the animosity towards the women correct, it gets the feeling of all of these soldiers and all these women. You understand it and you get it. You see the weapons being used and the uniforms being used and the way that they were used. They dotted their I's and they crossed their T's, except for the ending where it fucking counted. So I give the movie a 2 out of 10 for a historical movie, for a war
I'm going to make
movie.
this quick, my ranking, because I really got to use the bathroom. As a movie, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. As a war movie, 3 out of 10.
Yeah. Solely for the ending.
Yeah, solely
It
for
could
the
have been
ending.
something special. It could have been a movie that I say stood the test of time. And it damn near does. But
Yeah.
a quick Google search, literally a quick Google search, at the end of the movie, I Google searched what really happened, even though I already knew what happened to have it ready for this. And it threw away the last 10 minutes of the movie. So, sorry if you got angry with us, but if you did, you understand what it's like.
Yes.
Ah, man.
See, some
Enemies,
movies, it's
enemies of the
some
working
movies
class.
it's okay.
Eat my ass, communist Russia.
Some movies it's okay to have historical inaccuracies if that's not what they're going for. But in this movie, they tried to go for it.
They
so
tried
it
to go for it. And then they delegitimized the movie's last 10 minutes and the whole theme with the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm done.
I can't believe what I just saw.
Oh, Lord. I got to get out of here.
Trevor, before you go, we got 2 more movies. Both of them
Yes.
will be taking place. The last one will be taking place in 1918, and then the last one that you have will be a beginning to end.
Ooh, I
So,
love it.
We got 2 more movies. I love it too. I'm such a freaky girl. I love it. So, stick around. I hope you're not going to see us get angry anymore. It's been some couple days for us, and everyone, welcome back to. Well, it's been a few minutes for you guys again, so it's like it has been like 3 full days. 3 full days,
Oh,
3 hot
Lord.
minutes for us.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
So,
Let me get the article ready for this film.
so the movie we watched was Journey's End.
Yes, I think it came out last year, 2017.
It was pretty darn good.
It was pretty darn good.
Darn good.
Darn good. Yeah, 2017 drama war film. An hour 50. I thought it'd be like a little bit longer than that, but I think honestly the hour 50 was like
It was,
perfect runtime.
yeah.
That because it like there's 2 distinct parts to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Much like with Battalion and then Breaker Morant, there are like two parts of the film. So let's see. Here's Wikipedia article. Journey's End is a British film adaptation of the play Journey's End by R.C. Sheriff.
Oh, it's a play.
Written, apparently, I had no idea. Written by
that's pretty
Simon
cool.
Reed and directed by Saul Dibb. It is the 5th film adaptation of the play, following Journey's End 1930, The Other Side 1931, Aces High 1976, and a 1988 BBC TV film, also called Journey's End.
That is pretty cool. I gotta check those out.
It would be interesting. The film was screened in the special presentation section at the 2017 Toronto International Film Festival. Written by Simon Reed, based on Journey's End by R.C. Sheriff. It's starring an A-list cast, which I knew it had
Yes.
Paul Bettany in it, but I did not know it also had Sam Claflin, Asa Butterfield, Tom Sturridge, and Toby Jones.
Love me some Toby Jones.
Yeah, pretty like top tier
Yeah.
casting. The
We just
cinematography
need
was by Laurie
Benedict
Rose.
Cumberbatch, the most mainstream English actor right now. I love him, but he is a little oversaturated.
I'd say now, yeah.
Yeah.
Only because of how much stuff he has been in and like the wide variety that he's been in. Let's see. I'm trying to find just like a real quick plot. Well, there really isn't much plot to the
We
film.
got
There's
a
a lot
fresh-
going on though.
Fresh-faced Asa Butterfield.
Yeah.
He
Freshly
is-
a lieutenant officer.
Yeah. He comes to the trenches to basically be like partners, or not partners, but like co-officers with his childhood buddy.
Mm-hmm. And he's sent to Saint Quentin, which is in France.
Yeah.
Um,
His buddy has been in the trenches for
many years at this point.
since the beginning of the war, right?
He said 3 years, so it could be like around 1915.
Okay, so
Perhaps.
pretty close.
Yeah, he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, and he has
It
picked up some habits.
and it shows. There's a point where he's like drunk, and Paul Bettany's character, Lieutenant Osborne, is like trying to pacify him, like pretty much get him like to go to bed
yeah.
and like sleep off his drunken stupor, and then his character is like, hold on,
Did
Captain
he-
Stand Up.
Yeah, did he live? I don't think he lived. I think everyone might have died.
They did.
Yeah,
Everyone did. Yeah.
everyone died.
Yeah. But he's like trying to sleep off his drunken stupor, and he's like, the men know that I reek of alcohol. That's what they're going to tell them. And it's like, he's like, okay, time to go to bed. It's very like, all right, well, we get it. They paint the characters very early on. That way you know for the rest of the film what the characters are going to be like. I think we said close to the end of this one when Captain Stand-Up has his drunken breakdown. We're like, the whole film's been leading up to this. Because it really has. Because it's like, as soon as you see him, he's like, Mason, whiskey. As soon as you see him, he has a glass of whiskey.
Yeah.
Like his first few minutes on screen. Like, I think like not even a minute in, it's like he's already having one glass of whiskey.
Yeah, and
which
then
turns into 2, which turns into 3, which turns into 4.
the last, whenever he asks for the whiskey again from Toby Jones, Mason, that's the character's name. Mason's just like, we only have one more bottle, sir.
And then he's like,
We had 6.
we shipped 6. And he's like, and we've gone through 5, sir.
You've gone through 5, sir.
Never directly saying you're the one that's drinking all the whiskey, but he's like, we've gone through 5, sir. And it's been Monday,
I'm sure-
Tuesday, Wednesday, and then he had the last one Thursday.
Yeah.
So 4 days he's gone through 6 bottles of whiskey.
And I'm sure
one of them
other
went to
people,
I'm sure one of them went to the rest of the soldiers, not the officers.
but
They've gone through 6 bottles of whiskey in 4 days, and you're supposed to have your whiskey go until you're relieved. So a bottle of whiskey for 1 day, and he's gone through it before then. So, like with Battalion, let's go through the plot. The article on Wikipedia doesn't say the plot, which it is. I don't want to say a very
strange.
run-of-the-mill plot, but it is like a straightforward story. What's happening? You have your, and this is a 2017 film, so it's like fresh and it's hot. You have your setup for the characters, and your characters are set up, and after like 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, your characters are set up, and that's it. You don't get any more character setup. You don't get any more character development. It goes straight into the plot or the issue of the story next. It goes directly into end of Act 1, straight into Act 2.
Yeah.
So Act 2, of course, being that they captured a German before, before the movie starts, they captured a German soldier, and he said that there was going to be an attack on the 21st of March, Thursday, and they knew exactly they were going to attack at like 1 o'clock or whatever time they said. They had it like down to the hour, which is also accurate. They would like plan these things out that way nothing would happen. But if you had someone captured, of course, it's going to throw a wrench into your plans.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't throw a wrench into the Germans' plans because they just artillery shelled the entire trench system, or that entire front trench system. So I forgot what I was going to say. So you have that set up, and then you have the issue of the story, and you see how all the main characters react to the story, and one of the higher officers, not one of the field lieutenants or the people that are in the trenches, one people back, I guess closer to base. They don't establish where they are, but it's me knowing the history. They would be like walking distance away, but like miles away. So
like a couple miles away.
Yeah, walking distance miles, like 5 probably. Close enough to be there within a few hours travel. Mm-hmm. So I imagine they took a vehicle, perhaps. I'm not really sure.
They might have had a few Jeeps on hand or something. Well, Jeep not. They wouldn't have had Jeeps.
Rolls Royce. They're probably Rolls Royce.
Whenever I say Jeep, I don't.
They
exactly
have
mean
military cars.
Yeah, there you go. I could not think of any other word other than Jeep. I'm sorry.
That's just you being Americanized to all the war stuff. It's like, oh, a Jeep, cool.
A Jeep,
and then that's the thing that the army men ride in.
Yeah,
and that's fine, because in World War II, that's what they had.
Okay,
so
not too far off then.
In World War II, that's what they had.
Yeah.
So so we get to the part where it's the officer stand-up goes back to where I guess the higher-ups are, the generals are.
Yeah.
They don't really say what they are, but it's assumed that they're pretty high up. Yeah. I'm sure at one point they're like, General, whatever his name is. So he's like, we want you to conduct a raid and to bring back a German soldier tomorrow. So it's Tuesday, and he's like, Wednesday, we want you to do that, and then bring back a German soldier. And so they have their 2 officers selected already. They have Paul Bettany and Asa Butterfield.
Which, Paul Bettany's character, what is his name again? I want to say that it's
Lieutenant Osborne.
Osborne.
Yeah, so they have Lieutenant Osborne and Second Lieutenant Raleigh.
Yeah. Designated
to be the 2 officers, and then 10 men that go out to conduct the raid and come back.
Yeah. And it was, in a word, successful.
It was successful in the sense that they got a German soldier back to their trenches and then back to the officers.
Yeah, but they lost most of their men.
They left with 12 and came back with 5, and 4 and 1 officer, and Raleigh was the one to come back.
Yeah, so Osborne was the one that.
Yeah.
The wise old man.
Yeah.
That's what I did like about like the characterization. They kept it. I don't want to say basic.
Mm-hmm. But they don't have many moving parts. The moving parts that they have are extremely well oiled.
Yes, that's a good assumption.
You understand what the characters are. Paul Bettany's character, Lieutenant Osborne, is the level-headed, bit older, but I'd say that his wisdom comes with his age, perhaps, and being in the war for so long.
Yeah, and I really liked his character. He was so,
I did too. His character was wonderful.
He was so cool.
His character was like probably one of the best characters. I think it is to be assumed as well that maybe he was in a previous war, maybe the Boer War or a different conflict in some regard.
I could see something.
Maybe he's been in the military for a while, where you see Second Lieutenant Raleigh, Asa Butterfield's character,
literally showed up. He's like 20 years old or something.
Maybe.
I mean, Asa Butterfield himself is like 20 years old. So
I think he's 22. I think he's only a year older than you. Maybe.
Really?
He has the baby face.
He has the baby face.
He is a youngster, but I think his character would have been like 20 maybe. He looked very, very young, and then he was put into this office position, and like he was, so he was, he requested to be sent to, Captain Stanhope's unit, section, battalion. What I remember,
Yeah,
remember
he
what they're
wanted
called.
him.
He wanted to specifically go to that one, and he said that, and the general that, or the guy that was like posting them 2 places was like, "Don't think I'm doing this because I'm your uncle." It's very English and very like, oh. So it is funny to see that. The reception, the film received a wide release in spring 2018, 100 years after the events of the Spring Offensive,
That's
which
pretty
this
cool.
film depicts. So whenever they said at the beginning of the film, March 17th, March 18th,
Yeah.
1918, I was like, oh, fuck. I didn't say it out loud because I didn't want you to catch on, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck. I think I know what's happening here.
I had no idea.
So-
I know about the broad strokes of the war.
Yeah.
I don't know about specific battles or
So
anything like that.
this
so-
actually is the largest German attack
really.
in World War One. So
They
here's
got one good punch in.
here is the actual history. The 1918 Spring Offensive, or Kaiserschlacht, also known as the Ludendorff Offensive, was a series of German attacks along the Western Front during the First World War, beginning on March 21st, 1918, which is the second to last day in this movie, which marked the deepest advances by either side since the beginning of the war in 1914. The Germans had realized that their only remaining chance of victory was to defeat the Allies before the overwhelming human and material resources of the United States could be fully deployed. So they did this attack right before the United States was fully ready to go.
They tried to just. It's like whenever you see like the older brother of like say you're in a fight as a kid and you see the older brother coming, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah,
just knocks
you knock
the dude
one guy,
out
yeah,
and run.
and you fucking bolt. The thing that I was thinking of about this was like the light is turning yellow, like at like an intersection, and it's like cars still going, like, oh fuck, I gotta floor it, and then you floor it through the intersection, and the light does not turn red until you're like past the line.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of.
and I don't want to be like America, we're better than everyone. It's just like that's just how it was during World War I. We just came in at the right time to like give them like a boost, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give the Allies a boost.
Yeah.
It was more like we were the shot of adrenaline more than we were like.
Yes. Yeah. The overwhelming victory force, as everyone sees it to be seen. It's like the United States was in the war for the last year.
Yeah.
And it's like, so here's an example. And I love making this example. It's like if me, you, Hunter, and Paxton, they're friends from venturing, if we were to all build a house, and we built the walls, we built the flooring, we put in the furniture and everything, all I have to do left is finish the roof on the house. Yeah. And it'd be like if 2 of the people that like we barely knew came in to finish the roof, and then they said, we just got done building a house. And all they did was put on the roof. All they did was put on the roof. Me, you, and the other 2 guys built the fucking walls, the main foundation, the flooring. We got to put in the furniture, everything. And they put on the roof, and they said that they're the ones that
we built
finished.
a house.
We just got done building a house. Do you see the roof? And the rest of the house, we did that. That's what it's like for World War I for most Americans. And to another extent, World War II for most Americans. Yeah. Although World War II was more of an American war than World War I was.
Well, it was for us because we had like a separate battle.
Well, there was 2 separate fronts going on, whereas this one was only one front.
Yeah.
So you had the Pacific Theater.
We had our own like little like reasons for being in the war other than just like, okay, you guys keep asking, we'll come, you know. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I felt World War I was. It's like, okay, fine.
Well, kinda.
Yeah,
because Germany sent Mexico a telegram.
I forgot.
They sent them a telegram saying, if you attack the southern United States, and if things continue to go well here in France, then we'll give you like a portion of the United States. They also have the temporary advantage in numbers afforded by the nearly 50 German divisions, which had been freed by the Russian withdrawal from the war by the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. So the end of Battalion was when a treaty happened shortly thereafter, which means Germany had all of their forces back. Yeah. There was no longer an Eastern Front for Germany.
Gotcha.
So Germany had all 50 divisions that they could put towards France, which then lit a fire under England and America's ass to get going again. England and France had already been doing the war for 3 or 4 years at this point.
Yeah.
So America was like, we got to get on it like right now. The belligerents for the German Spring Offensive in 1918 was the German Empire under the command of Erich Ludendorff, and for the Allies it was France, the British Empire, the British Empire and its underlings Australia, Canada, India, Newfoundland, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. Those are all of the British forces. And then you had Siam, United States, Italy, and Portugal, which were also involved to an extent. The commanders and leaders for the Allies was Ferdinand Foch, Douglas Haig, Philippe Pétain, and John Pershing. At the end of the war, and it's not that they get their numbers wrong for this, it's that they underestimated the numbers.
Okay.
Was 688,341 German soldiers. For the Allies, it was 863,374.
That's a lot more than what they said at the end. They said 700,000
were lost. I think they said 700,000 were lost in the first parts of the offensive.
Oh, okay.
Because the Spring Offensive lasted from March until July. March 21st, where the movie ends.
Well, then it's not a Spring Offensive at some point.
Well, yeah, it turns into it. But like,
I'm just being a smart ass. I'm sorry.
Being smart ass is fine because spring doesn't end for Europe. Spring is different for Europe, and the same thing with other countries. So spring would have ended like around then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you saw it. Like they were still like fucking cold. Like it was damn cold, and it stays cold in France for ages. So, yeah. By late April 1918, which is a month after when the movie takes place, the danger of a German breakthrough had passed. The German army had suffered heavy casualties and now occupied ground of dubious value, which would prove impossible to hold with such depleted units. In August 1918, the Allies began a counteroffensive with support of 1 to 2 million fresh American troops and using new artillery techniques and operational methods. This 100 days offensive resulted in the Germans retreating or being driven from all that ground they had taken in the Spring Offensive. So 2, 3, and so like a month after the Spring Offensive happened, where Germany had taken all of those trenches from the Allies, the United States with 1 to 2 million fresh troops and new attacks and new offensives, took all of it back in like no time.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Which resulted in the collapse of the Hindenburg Line and the capitulation of the German Empire in November. Today, actually. So, and Operation Michael is what we actually saw from the Germans. So, the artillery bombardment began at 4:40 a.m. on March 21st. And the bombardment hit targets over an area of 150 square miles. The biggest barrage of the entire war.
Gotcha.
Which I will say, I mentioned this to you like a couple of days ago. I played an audio clip of the constant bombardment, and this movie did not portray that very accurately. I would say that's the only thing the movie did not get right, was portraying the bombardment of artillery.
Yeah.
But I mentioned this also. Over 1 million shells were fired in the first 5 hours of this operation.
It's insane. It's a little overkill.
It is a little overkill. And at different parts of France, they were actually introducing the German A7V tank, which held 20 guys. So, yeah. I would have loved to have seen tanks in this movie, honestly.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been English ones because they weren't doing any attacking or anything. But to see a German tank would have been like, mouth agape, like that Pikachu meme. I am excited to do the meme show. That's gonna be a lot of fun after this. After I take a day or two to relax.
Yeah.
So yeah. Any closing thoughts on the film besides it being honestly a damn masterpiece?
No other thoughts on the film.
Do you have any thoughts on the actual Kaiserschlacht, the offensive, the German attack?
Oh man, the offensive. It was a nice, just good last try, Germany.
It really was.
I mean, you gave it your all.
They really did. There's
Yeah.
nothing else that they could have done.
You gave it your all. Sorry, no hard feelings.
No hard feelings.
Honestly, we were the country that wanted to be lenient. So, for real, no hard feelings from us. If
Trevor,
if
it
we
was
were-
100 years ago. I think they're okay with it now.
Well, if we were lenient with the Treaty of Versailles, there would be a lot less Nazis in the world.
Exactly. Nazis may not have existed. You never know.
I mean, they wouldn't have been called Nazis, but they definitely.
They would have been called Nazis.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It just would not have been what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to see
There,
all this.
there
aftermath
potentially
discussion.
probably wouldn't even be another world war.
That's very likely. That's very likely because the reparations towards Germany only,
Yeah.
which they were not the ones that caused the war to begin with.
They were just the biggest, like,
Aggregator. I'd
Yeah.
say. They were the ones that were like, well, if you're gonna fucking go after Austria-Hungary, then we're gonna kick your ass. Like
Yeah.
that's really what it is. Yeah, Serbia caused it, and Austria-Hungary is going to go attack Serbia now, but like, we can't. We gotta help them. And then
Mhm.
France was like, well, we gotta help them, and then England's like, well, we gotta help France. So it was just like me punching some guy at a bar, and then that guy's brother being like, yo, what the fuck? And then like someone big on my side stepping in like, hey, is there a problem here? And then the guy behind the big guy was
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's a fucking problem here.
Yeah, I saw a political cartoon looking for the potential thumbnail for this, and it was like world leader after world leader after world leader going like, "Hey, you can't pick on him," and it's all
Yes,
a line of
yeah.
them like with clubs
Yeah.
or bats
I
or
love that
something like,
one.
"Hey, don't do that."
Yeah, that's such a good one.
Yeah.
So yeah, or actually, now that we're done with the final thoughts,
Yeah.
what would you give this movie a rating and then a military movie rating?
Movie. Good solid 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Good solid 9. It's great. It's great. I think the only thing that could have benefited was maybe a little more character development than what was on screen, but that's just me as a storyteller. Or not, I'm not a storyteller, but like liking stories more than the spectacle, you know? As a war movie, solid like 9.5. 9.5 out of 10. I hesitate to give anything like 10s if you haven't noticed, because
No, I've noticed.
like I don't even know if my favorite movie is a 10 out of 10, you know? I just hesitate to do it, but a good 9.5 out of 10 for the an actual war movie.
Yeah. And I thought the movie overall was a 9 out of 10. It's just wonderfully crafted start to finish. And of course there's like minimal action, but the build up is what the story is. It's the days leading up to what our characters didn't know, but what I knew was the
What I
largest
didn't
offensive of
know.
the war. So what I would give it for a like war movie is like a 10 out of 10, honestly. It's right next to Joyeux Noel. It's very interesting to see the camaraderie and the very early on in Christmas, like hopefully this will be soon over.
And then fast
and
forward.
then you fast forward to this.
What is it? 4 years later.
3 years and a few months or so.
Mm.
So it would have been 4 years or 3 years, 4 months. So yeah.
They're just like,
I mean, I told you. I'm pretty sure I said at the very beginning of this, like the last one's going to be a real downer. Yeah. But we got one more movie, and I'm very excited to watch it. Let's break for lunch, and then watch the last film.
cool.
Welcome to the final installation of our Veterans Day Centennial Special.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much, Trevor, for being here for this entire multi-day duration. I say this one's more grueling and a lot harder than for us at least, than the 80s summer stuff was.
Oh yeah.
Because like it was just me, you, and Andrew just messing around and having fun. Whereas this is like
Also, it was only like 4 movies.
Yeah, whereas this is, I think, 7 movies.
Yeah.
7 total war films.
This is a lot.
With a lot of different subject matter than a bunch of kids going on a fun adventure.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for watching this entire thing, if you actually have seen the entire thing.
God bless you.
Yes, truly. So, for the final film, we watched the 1969 release of Oh, What a Lovely War. It's an English film, and you see that a lot throughout the movie.
Yes, it's very English.
But it's the English film type that is not afraid to poke, jab, and make fun of the country itself, England.
Yeah.
I feel like no one else could have done that but the English. It would have come off a different way if it was not England making fun of England. So
that's why I love English humor.
Oh, What a Lovely War is a 1969 British comedy musical film directed by Richard Attenborough in his directorial debut.
Really?
Yep, with an
Did not know
ensemble
that.
cast including Maggie Smith,
I
Dirk
love her.
Bogarde, John Gielgud, John Mills, Kenneth Moore, Olivier, it's French. Jack Hawkins, Corin Redgrave. I mean, there's like a lot here. I mean, there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of characters.
It's produced by Lynn Dayton and Brian Duffy, written by Lynn Dayton while it's uncredited on the film. Cinematography was by Jerry Turpin.
Give that man an award.
Honestly. Let's see if he's done anything that anyone else knows. Oh, We Lovely War. No, not really.
Really?
Man, we have so many of these like good cinematographers that like just did not do much after.
Yeah.
Which we have the rare exception of the guy that did what movie was it?
It wasn't Merry Christmas, was it?
I think it was Zulu.
Was it
No,
Zulu?
Brecken Morant.
Yeah.
Brecken Morant, where he also did like
That's it.
Predator and Mrs. Doubtfire and other
Yeah.
stuff. He's done a ton of other movies.
It's a strange filmography.
Edited by Kevin Connor. This one, and it shows the editing and transitions are like they are damn good.
Yeah.
The film is based on the stage musical Oh, What a Lovely War, originated by Charles Chilton as a radio play, The Long, Long Trail in December 1961, and transferred to stage by Jerry Raffles in partnership with Joan Littlewood and her theater workshop in 1963. The title is derived from the musical hall song Oh, It's a Lovely War, which is one of the major numbers in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Synopsis. Oh, What a Lovely War summarizes and comments on the events of the First World War using popular songs of the time, many of which were parodies of older popular songs, and using allegorical settings such as Brighton's West Pier to criticize the manner in which the eventual victory was won.
Mm-hmm.
The diplomatic maneuverings and events involving those in authority are set in a fantasy location inside the Pier Head Pavilion, far from the trenches. In the opening scene, various foreign ministers, generals, and heads of state walk over a huge map of Europe, reciting actual words spoken by these figures at the time. An unnamed photographer takes a picture of Europe's rulers, and after handling, my phone's brightness is not bright enough. Hold on, my phone's like down like handing. My phone's brightness is at like 5%, so my battery's at like 10%.
If you want, you can use mine instead.
I'll charge my phone later. Well, I mean, I'm at my house. I'll just charge it whenever I'm done with this.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Reacting to YouTubers, reacting to PewDiePie, reacting to YouTube.
Wait, what?
a new PewDiePie video.
Oh.
Anyway. An unnamed photographer takes a picture of Europe's rulers after handing 2 red poppies to the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife, the Duchess of Hohenberg. He takes their picture, assassinating them as the flash goes off. Many of the heads of state enjoy good personal relations and are reluctant to go to war. A tearful Emperor Franz Joseph declares war on Serbia after being deceived by his foreign minister, whilst Tsar Nicholas II and Kaiser Wilhelm II are shown as unable to overrule their country's military mobilization schedules. The German invasion of Belgium leaves Sir Edward Grey little choice but to get involved. Italy reneges on its alliance with the Central Powers. It joined the Allies in 1915, but Turkey joins them instead. So I'm not going to read the entire thing. The movie's 2.5 hours long. But the film is the 1969 equivalent of a hot take.
Yeah.
The thing start to finish is damn good and damn poignant. Everything it gets, It crosses its I's and it dots its T's.
Yeah, for the
by-
most part.
For the most part.
There was
There's like
one
the
glaring
occasional
one.
thing. I noticed one English soldier did not have an SMLE rifle. He had like a German rifle. And I'm sure it's just like one or two little things
Yeah.
that do not take me out of the film. But I noticed because I'm a nitpicker. Hello, my name is Elisha Nitpicker. And you weren't ready for that one, were you?
No.
And but the film does everything correctly. We see early on, we see the English troops have their original uniforms with the hats. And I mentioned to Trevor that they changed from the hats to the helmets, the Brody helmets, and that there was an increase in battlefield injuries, which meant that there was a decrease in battlefield fatalities and deaths because they switched from hats to helmets. We see them be gas attacked, and they mentioned that's a new thing that's going to win the war. It didn't. And that they had those huge like burlap sacks over their head that had like the eye holes cut into them. Like scarecrow level masks.
They're scary looking.
And then we see later in the film them being switched to the actual ones that the English used later on in the war, the ones that were better and had their own built-in respirator and all that, or had a respirator that went into a pack. So things like that, the attention to detail are wonderful. There was a scene close to the end of the film where they're at a medical camp, and they had red, tan, and black blankets. Yeah. And I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure it's like the red blankets are the ones that are injured. Yeah. And the black and tan may have been the ones that were dead or dying, perhaps.
Yeah.
So
I think so. Also,
attention to detail like that's wonderful.
If you do decide to watch this movie, look out for those red tulips or whatever they are.
Red poppies.
Poppies?
Yeah.
Look out for those. Those are significant. I don't really want to spoil why they're significant, but they are.
Yeah. Well, it's like Veterans Day. You see red poppies. There's a reason behind that.
Yeah.
Which I read, but like it's a long story that I don't really want to repeat on here. Just look up the meaning behind the red poppies and its origination with World War I.
Gotcha.
The same thing with origination with Veterans Day being November 11th. That's for a reason. So, it's hard to say what do we think of the film, because I think the film is the 60s equivalent of a hot take, but it's like it's World War I, and it doesn't showcase everything wrong with World War I that would take multiple hours.
Yeah.
But it shows the difference in ideologies and difference in societies or societal standings, societal views on the war. You see the people that are in the war. You see the men in the trenches being shot and killed and killing other people. We see a Joyeux Noel situation with the Germans and the English and Scottish.
Yeah. We see so many different points of views in the movie.
And it's not hard to follow either.
Yeah,
it's very
not.
clearly the different points.
You would think that it would be so strange to follow because
they
for each view of a certain person, they change the set almost entirely.
Yes, we have
and setting and everything.
We have an Avengers Infinity War situation with the different story parts. They're all connected and interlaced, but they're all different. Whereas in Infinity War, it's like different because it's different superhero types. And this one, it's different societal standings and societal viewpoints. You see
the family at home.
You see the families at home. You see
they see a big
the civilians in England. You see them.
Yeah. What they see is not the same as what the soldiers or the government or other citizens see as we get to just a slight scene of a different point of view. It's like there are 4 total. One of them is only like a few minutes long.
Yeah.
The first one, it's just what the governments think of the war. It's this big ballroom. Yeah. And they have this map of Europe, and they play it like a game of Civilization. Yeah. And it's terrible how they see it. And then the public, for the most part, sees it as an amusement park. You said it was a certain pier that they used?
It was a pier, and it's the Brighton Pier, which still exists to this day. I know YouTuber PewDiePie, he lives in Brighton. Yeah. And so in some of his older videos, you see him like being next to the Brighton Pier, which is all like that stone gravel instead of sand. Yeah. So
so they
seeing
use
that, and then you see the generals before the war begins, and it's like, well, this will be over by Christmas, and it's like just another
No.
European war is what it started out as.
Yeah.
You see, what I thought was really funny was the English officers talking to each other about how they didn't mention their plans to the French, and how
Yeah.
that was a very common fucking problem early on. How you have these two separate armies not communicating with each other, and then you had them later on in the film, around end of 1916, saying this would be a war of attrition. And it's like that's why they had at the end of the Battle of the Somme 700,000 English men dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting to see the different viewpoints. Of course, the government and the War Ministry and the War Department censored what was sent back. If someone
Yeah.
said war is hell, they wouldn't include that part. They would say the food is just fine. My friends and I are getting along. Very soon we're
Yeah.
going to go up top and give Jerry what for. War is hell. They would censor that last little bit.
Pop, pop, pip, pop. I don't know. Cheerio.
They said cheerio a lot in the last
What do
one.
British people sound like?
We've seen predominantly British films or Australian films.
Well, it's a foreign war for the most part. We only came in at the very end, just
which is
like
hilarious.
in the movie.
That's hilarious.
I really don't want to spoil what happens when we come in.
Yeah, this
as
is
Americans,
let's
it's
make,
so
let's-
funny.
Let's make this one the one that we don't really spoil start to finish, because the other ones we've been doing for.
Yeah, but this one's a little different.
This is
you
the
know?
one if you only have time to watch one of the movies that we've seen, and I urge you to watch most of them. Don't watch
Silent Mountain.
don't watch Silent Mountain,
Battalion.
Forbidden Ground. You can just like pass over unless you want a good story. Battalion's good, but understand that the history at the end is skewed.
Yeah.
Zulu is a heightened story of what actually happened.
Mm-hmm. This one.
This one, if you have to watch one of them, watch this one. Watch this one or watch the last one that we watched.
Yeah.
Or watch Breaker Morant. I urge you to watch one of the ones
Mm-hmm.
that is not an anti-war film. It is. This one is. And this one's a satirical comedy musical of the war. And Breaker
Mm-hmm.
Morant is an anti-war and anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism film. I urge you to watch one of the ones that are like that, or one of the ones that tell a better story than An Awesome Women's Battalion, where they skip the story at the end, or these guys fighting African guys, or a romance story. I urge you to watch one of the ones that's a bit more serious. So,
I kind of want to share this real quick.
go ahead.
On the Wikipedia page, it says at the time the Beatles were also interested in making an anti-war film. At Bertrand Russell's suggestion, Paul McCartney met with the producer Lynn Dighton to discuss the opportunity of the band portraying the Smith family.
That would have been interesting.
Although in the end
I would've
it
loved
was
that.
not possible to arrange.
I would have loved
Also,
that.
in '69, they would have been disbanded anyway.
Yeah, but like, well, I mean, we made the joke so many times. This movie will never be able to escape the feeling of 1960s English cinema. Much like how Zulu can't, much how like the Italian Job can't, and a handful of other
It's
films.
to its benefit, though. I
James
think.
Bond and Sean Connery ones, those
Yeah.
will never be able to escape the 1960s English feeling. So if that's
Yeah.
the only thing holding you down, there's so much more stuff to this film that is not holding it down.
It's so great.
The overarching themes, the large anti-war messages, the messages of the people not listening. Even one guy openly says to this woman who's protesting the war and saying that women should have the vote.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying all these things, and this guy's like,
Who told you this?
"Yeah, like who told you this?
The Germans?
Shouldn't you go back to the kitchen where your husband is, or whatever? Or yeah, shouldn't you go home to your husband? Whatever he says." And then she says, "Oh, what do you know?" He's like, "I don't know a thing. I'm stupid." Immediately after he criticized her. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's so on the nose, but it doesn't beat you over the head with it. It hits you on the head very lightly. It's like, "Hey, pay attention to this."
Hey, come on.
So
This will be on a test.
yeah, this is one of the greatest message on war films. and I would venture to say it's one of the greatest message on war films of all time.
Mm-hmm.
The few things holding it down, the 60s English feel, we'll never be able to get rid of that.
Doesn't bother me at all. In
It
fact,
doesn't bother. It doesn't bother me
enhances it
either
for me.
But I know some people will be apprehensive towards that. There's a select amount of people that like the 2003 Italian Job, which is an American Hollywood film,
Yeah.
as opposed to the 68 Italian Job movie.
Yeah.
Only because of that 60s feeling. It's like I made the joke a couple times anyway, or when we were watching it, like, man, I should really be on LSD listening to the Beatles right now watching this because of like just the way the movie looks and feels overall.
Yeah. Also, it is a little trippy in some areas whenever it jump cuts between the different settings. Like in one scene, it was very poignant whenever it was one of the Smith family. He and his wife were in the at the pier on like a little, I don't want to say toy train. It's one of those little kiddie ride trains. And they were like, doing all that. They had like a musical number and all that. And whenever he was leaving, he was waving goodbye and all that. Waving goodbye. It would cut between him looking at her and her looking at him like a couple times. And then it's a very close shot of her just looking at something, and turns back and the train's completely gone.
Yeah.
And then the next shot is of her literally in the train station.
Yeah.
And it's super, it feels like it would be jarring, but it doesn't.
Yeah, the transitional editing is great. There was another one where they were like on the pier talking to somebody, and then they got like turned around or whatever, and then it was the same guy in the trenches.
Yeah.
Some of the editing
happens
like that
a couple
is
times.
Really on the nose.
One of my favorite edits is when
very artistic.
When the one of the British generals, he says something like to the people keeping score.
Mm-hmm.
There are scoreboards in this film because
on the casualties and ground taken.
Yeah, and it's so sad, honestly, but it's good commentary at the same time. He says something to them, and then he starts climbing up some stairs, and then the next shot is him outside on a helter-skelter, which for us Americans is a slide at a carnival. It's one of those spinning slides, not just the Beatles song. He's on top of a helter-skelter, which is their kind of base of operations.
Well, it's them overseeing the trenches.
Yeah.
It's them being above and away from the trenches,
yeah.
which is how the generals and higher up officers, on the English especially side, were like being seen as.
Yeah.
And then you see how early on in the war they do their salute like that. And
yeah.
then very tight. The generals at least, and then later on in the war just one of those quick numbers as they realize that they're as millions of men are being killed. As millions of men are being killed, you just dabbed. The American intro is hilarious into the war. It's very funny. I won't say anything more than that. Really,
it's great.
It's damn wonderful.
Speaking of America, what do you think of the music in the movie?
Music in the movie's one of the things. It's a musical.
Yeah,
but it's one of the things that brings the movie an extra step above, because people listen to music for different reasons. The biggest one is like you listen to older songs. If you're an older person, like you listen to that. I remember listening to the song whenever I was in high school.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that people listen to Evanescence now whenever they were in high school. And it's like, I remember this song. Listen to this song in high school, and it's like you're 32. So music being used in this movie to invoke that sense of a time for them that existed. For us, it doesn't exist. Yeah, that music does very much exist then. So listening to that music is interesting, and the film would not have been what it is without it. Yeah,
if you don't know, they used music and songs, folk songs. Some of them were church songs.
Yeah.
They used those as the base, And then sometimes they would be direct adaptations.
Yes.
And then other times, like...
it would be the actual song.
Yeah. One of my favorite, like, different... I don't want to call it a parody necessarily, but they use the same tune and stuff and put different words. If you know the song "What a Friend We Have in Jesus" is played at some point.
Yeah.
And
it's played during the mass.
The priest says, and the choir will sing "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," and then they sing backup for a soldier in the middle of the crowd singing a variation. Instead of "Oh, what a friend we have in Jesus," he sings, "Oh, when this war is over." Sorry to torture you for a bit, but it's that kind of stuff that just like raises it just a little bit.
Where's that extra point on, or that extra commentary bit, where it's like, even the mass, and we saw this in Joyeux Noel, and it pissed me and you off.
Yeah.
Where the priest was like, the only way to win this war is by killing every German you can. It's like the eradication of the Germans was the only way to win World War I. And God said so. So...
I did like the little thing that they did where the priest, he actually called out other religions, not in a bad way. He said, the Dalai Lama has put his prayers on the British Empire and stuff like that. Because the rabbi has said it's okay to eat pork. No, that was the Muslim. What's
Jewish,
the
Jewish? Well, Jewish and Muslim.
Yeah, Jewish and Muslim do that.
Yeah,
but
so it was very interesting because the English Empire, to their credit, had many other countries and territories involved. Like the list of belligerents for that one battle that we mentioned before was like the English army. So it had like France, America, Siam, Belgium, England, with a little asterisk, and it had like Australia, New Zealand, Canada. It had like a dozen more down the line.
Yeah.
India. There's actually today, November 9th, the English War Ministry actually commended India for its valiant troops and like how extremely brave their soldiers were for being involved in the English military cause. Which is interesting to see that because we remember at the end of Breaker Morant where one of the generals or somebody's being sent to India to basically redo their army. So 20 years before, they were like, or not even 20 years before, it would have been 1902, 3, 4, so it would have been 10 years before, a decade before. They had English officers and soldiers and military experts redoing the Indian army. And then obviously with Breaker Morant, you already had the Anzacs, you had the Highlanders, you had Irish units. So yeah, it's very interesting to see all of the parallels and see everything from the beginning of Zulu to the end of the war, which we finished with that one, and with this one, the ending was bittersweet, where it's like it's finally over, but at what cost,
Yeah. I do also want to say that this does not necessarily focus on one war or one event
or 1 year during.
Yeah, this is from when did it start? 1914 to 1918.
Yep.
It was
beginning to end.
All of it. This is kind of a spoiler, but since it's not a spoiler if you know history. We even see the signing of the Treaty of Versailles and stuff. Like it expands everywhere.
Yeah, we see Archduke Franz Ferdinand being killed, all the events unfolding, the war itself. I will say, from England's point of view, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then
it's a very English film making fun of the English not army, but the English government during World War I.
English society during World War I. Yeah. Which I will say was very toxic. But most societies back then were very... 100 years will definitely change a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's very funny to see America, and I mentioned this during the filming, while we were watching it. It is very funny to see America... be seen as this boisterous young nation that wants to just butt its head into everything. And now, 100 years later, the United States is one of the premier superpowers. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see all those parallels.
It is.
Trevor, Wow, what a wonderful week it's been.
It has.
Can you believe we've done all this?
No.
Can you believe that I have to edit it still?
No.
Do you have any closing thoughts on this film or previous films that we've watched, or perhaps the entire event that we've done as a whole?
I would say watch most of the films that we've covered here today. Just watch as many as you can, but don't. I don't know. It's hard to say like watch all of them right now.
Yeah. Definitely
Like-
put them on your watching soon list.
Yeah,
Some of them, like this one, has very heavy material, but has a very upbeat comedy musical tone.
it's very lighthearted, but it mixes the lightheartedness
yeah.
with some actual, I guess, just serious,
Heavy source material and
He-
very
heavy
heavy
stuff.
themes as well.
Also, one more thing I want to say: the portrayal of France at the beginning made me laugh so hard whenever I first watched. Oh Lord!
It is interesting to see that we didn't see the French anymore during that. Even though they were like, I think the nation that like didn't lose the most people. Maybe I don't know.
Well, the war that, or the battle that we saw with the French was one of those that just like shook Britain,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we saw it. It's, again, this is particularly centered around Britain
Yeah.
and what Britain does, you know?
Yeah.
So seeing a French war would be strange, but I do feel like it's a little weird that we didn't see any more French soldiers with the English soldiers, you know?
I mean, they did have like very distinct trenches and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Final movie and war movie rating.
Oh, movie rating. This is an 8.5.
Oh man, I was hoping I'd get the illustrious Trevor Moore 10,
Nah,
which no film has ever gotten ever. So you guys got to step up your damn game.
exactly.
8.5. That's good.
8.5. It's a very solid film. It's funny. It's touching. And it's just like, it is so ridiculous and yet so beautiful. I don't even know how to describe it. I can't just describe this film
With
except-
words. You just gotta watch.
except a political cartoon in film form.
Yeah.
It's great. As a war film, that's low because it's low because it doesn't necessarily touch on the battle or the way that they fight necessarily, but it does touch on like some key aspects of war. So maybe not low, but lower than the other films that
Okay.
like, I'm not saying like 4, but definitely like a 6.5
Okay.
because it's not a war film first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
It's a commentary film,
Okay.
you know?
I see what you mean. Yeah. For me, much like the last one, it gets a 9 out of 10 for being just an all-around wonderful film. But it gets the 9 out of 10 that Zulu and The Italian Job and some of the early James Bonds get. It's the early 60s English film 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's still an overall good movie, 9 out of 10. But for war movies, I'd say it probably gets an 8 out of 10. The commentary and then the costume accuracy, the uniform accuracy, the time period accuracy, the change in between those. I remember looking through or watching this and seeing the French cavalry uniforms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're wearing armor. What in the heck? I was like, all right, got to consult the book. And I looked at the book. In
It's extremely accurate.
1912 to 1914, they had like those iron or brass breastplates, and then
yeah,
the
they kind of look
long-
like knights, but
yeah.
without just the breastplates of the knights. Really,
and then the helmets with the long hair on the back, like a horse's tail hair.
yeah,
And then you see right next to that in the book that I have, the actual or the one that replaced it in like 1917, 18,
mm-hmm.
one that is not so boisterous and over the top, because that's the war they thought they were going to fight. So, 9 out of 10 for movie, 8 out of 10 for war movie.
Awesome.
Just that damn good. All right, let's go on ahead and cut this before I start crying. So, thank you so much again for watching. Man, I guess I'm glad to say the war's over, I suppose.
Yeah,
You know?
the war is finally over after 100 years.
100 years.
The 100-Year War, the new 100-Year War. I'm glad that this is over. I'm sorry to say.
I am too, honestly. Well, for you, it's been like a week or so. For me,
Yeah.
it's been 3 years.
Really?
I've been following stuff for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been following it since the end of 2015.
Well, I was just talking about
Well,
the
the
video
video-
series
yeah.
more than anything.
Yeah.
Because I love watching movies
Yeah.
with you, but man, this took a lot of time
And a lot of effort.
yeah,
A lot of knowledge.
a lot of knowledge. I learned a lot this week
Yeah.
about World
I'm
War
gonna
One.
keep
I
singing-
loved
I'm
it.
going to keep singing stuff, boy.
Yeah, I do want to say this real quick. I loved rewatching this movie after learning all that stuff because I found this movie before, like a week before we started filming
Yeah.
or anything.
Back when we thought it was going to be like 4 or 5 films we're going to watch.
Yeah, and then after learning like all the history, I found some things I never noticed before.
Yeah.
Which
I learned you good. I told you I was going to learn you good.
You learned me good.
I learned you good, boy.
I have even more of an appreciation for. Oh, what a lovely war!
That's good.
Also, the music is dope.
Music is wonderful. That's like that's what the movies thing is the music.
Also, we need to see if we can get a showing of the actual play anytime soon. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
That would be damn good, honestly. So, thank you for watching and
you.
subscribe to our channel. We do other stuff besides this. This was a very special occasion that I felt like I had the obligation to do.
Elisha was very excited for it.
I was very excited for it, and I'm very excited that I'm done. I'll actually be done like tomorrow. So
Good.
yeah.
Well, see you after 100 years of World War II.
Oh boy. It's finally over.